Tonight on the Black Channel, I warned people well in advance of exactly how this was going to unfold, and it's happening exactly the manner in which I told you. Donald Trump, barely a week into his second term as president, is already fulfilling exactly what I warned people and told you he would do, that he's going to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory because of his single-minded stupidity and, of course, his inherent white supremacy. For the details here, in D.C., outside of Reagan National Airport, right over the Potomac there, there's a plane that was coming in. It was an American Airlines plane that was being operated by a regional operator. It was coming in for a landing, and a Black Hawk helicopter that had been doing military maneuvers in the area. They have a base out there, and they do military maneuvers and training on those helicopters going up the river. Well, for some reason, they've recovered the flight data recorders, though it's not confirmed why. For some reason, the Black Hawk helicopter that should have been down at 200 feet goes up to over 350 feet. And the airliner that was coming down from 400 feet, the Black Hawk goes up much higher than it should have been for some reason. It had been in contact with the air traffic controllers. They had checked with them twice. They asked for them. The Black Hawk said they wanted to just keep visual confirmation, which means they were taking responsibility for looking out for the plane. They indicated that they saw it, and yet for some reason there was a midair collision. Everybody is deceased. Everyone. We don't know why the Black Hawk did what it did. We don't know what the reasons were. But that did not prevent Donald the Jerk Trump from deciding that he was going to attempt to use the situation without finding out any of the details, reflexively as a tool to attack black folk, but under the guise of the label DEI. He decided that that was what he was going to do, to seize upon this without any information, just immediately as soon as it happened. When it's time for him to give comments, he's going to see if he can attempt to try to use this as a political weapon to promote his white supremacist ideology. These are the comments that he gave. Fair use.
We have only the highest standards for those who work in our aviation system. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to extraordinary. You remember that. Only the highest aptitude, they have to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. That was not so prior to getting there. When I arrived in 2016, I made that change very early on because I always felt this was a job that, and other jobs too, but this was a job that had to be superior intelligence, and we didn't really have that, and we had it. And then when I left office and Biden took over, he changed them back to lower than ever before. I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse. So as you know, last week, long before the crash, I signed an executive order restoring our highest standards for air traffic controllers and other important jobs throughout the country. So it was very interesting. About a week ago, almost upon entering office, I signed something last week that was an executive order, very powerful, on restoring the highest standards of air traffic controllers and others, by the way. Then my administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent, the word talent. You have to be talented, naturally talented geniuses. You can't have regular people doing that job. They won't be able to do it.
So at a time when it was essential to be a president, he showed that he is, as always, he is just as unqualified and incapable as he's ever been. And of course, as I told you all, Jason, are you worried about him becoming president? Hell no, I'm not worried, because I told you all, I said it before the election. I said it on election night. I said he's gonna revert back to what he did before. He's gonna remind everybody why they didn't like him. Yeah, they hate Biden, and you're the alternative to Biden, and now you're just gonna remind people all over again why they kicked you out in 2020. And barely a week in the office, he's reminding everyone, oh yeah, that's why we didn't like you. Yeah, that's why we kicked you out the first time. He didn't make it barely a week, people. And I was the one who told you all, oh, he's going to crash and burn right out the gate. This is not the usual Trump faux pas or the usual. Well, Jason, he always says crazy, weird stuff. This is not the usual. This one's going to stick right out of the gate. This one's going to stick to him. And we know it's going to stick to him because he had a bunch of folks try to jump up here and defend him. Oh, I'm not going to let any of you bastards get away with it. He had a bunch of folk to jump up here and try to defend him. Of course, the usual white supremacists over there at Fox News went straight to work, just like him. Lapdogs have puppies, and just like him, they didn't wait. They went straight into attack mode because they need to be able to substantiate and justify their white supremacy, so they just seize on anything, even if they don't check it first, even if they don't confirm it first, because there isn't really anything they can lack. They can't show you any unqualified people who have caused any disasters. So they don't have a crisis there to latch on to. The southern border, there actually is an illegal alien crisis. But for, quote, DEI, there is no crisis. There isn't a bunch of problems happening. So they're so desperate to say, look, there's a crisis. Look at the problem that happened because of all these non-white males that you hire here. And we need to go back to making discrimination legal. As if it ever stopped being legal. So Fox News, following up behind Massa, they jump right into it, which is why I will not allow them to walk away from it nor forget. This was them after Trump's comments.
Simultaneous here. So one of them is investigating what the actual cause was of the accident. But at the second thing is really sort of reshaping the FAA. And President Trump talked about how in his first term, he reversed Obama policies, DEI policies. And then, of course, President Biden came in, reversed those again. He wanted to revert back to looser restrictions that allowed more people who might not have necessarily been qualified to hold those positions within the FAA.
Now, you would figure that if there were all these unqualified people, Fox would have been able to find them. You notice that they keep using the word unqualified, and yet they can't find a single instance of somebody who was unqualified. They just keep using that word. So recognize propaganda. If they could find it, they would be parading it. They would be showing it endlessly. But they can't show you where there's any systemic issue with, quote, unqualified people. They just keep suggesting that there is, and they never show you what it is. So there's your first clue you're being lied to. That was the Fox News anchor there who was talking. Then they have their guest here who decides he's going to sit up here and say to her, I suppose, well, just hold my beer because I've got my own thoughts and ideas about how we can capitalize on that. And then he gives it his best shot.
Talking to a military controller. So somehow in that litany of people involved in the sequence of events, there was a breakdown in communication. Now, assuming that this was an air traffic control foul-up, which I do believe it was, if you have a systemic problem within the air traffic control, within the FAA, from a policy determination, DEI or otherwise, we're going to let the politicians ferret that out. I'm not going to pass judgment on that.
Right after he says, I think it was an FAA, I think it was air traffic controller issue, and there was no reason to think that, except he tries to justify it later, by the way. He tries to.
Here we have a controller who was speaking to the American Airlines flight. Apparently there was some communication to the Black Hawk pilot. Do you see the other airplane? In that moment, in my view, that was a mistake. The two planes were very close. The controller should have told the helicopter pilot, hold your position turn left, turn right, climb, descend, basically get the hell out of the way of an American airline plane on final approach. Whether that's DEI, whether it's an overworked controller, whether something missed, something to be determined.
So,
all right. Now, for those of you who've heard the audio from the incident, you know that the air traffic controller had talked to the pilot of the Black Hawk and had told them it said, go behind the jet. They had said that already. You need to go behind them. So they were going to be crossing in front of the Black Hawk, basically saying you need to wait till they pass. So you're going to go behind them. Black Hawk pilot indicates understood. So he already knows this if he heard the same air traffic control audio that we all heard. The air traffic controller had already established with the Black Hawk pilot, you go behind the jet, you're going to go behind them. So he knows this. And yet look what he just did. Oh, well, they were too close. How would you be able to confirm how close they are? Because you see, you don't have any confirmation of that. And the air traffic controller had twice confirmed with the Black Hawk pilot about, are you sure you see them? And the Black Hawk pilot says, yes, and I want to take visual control here. So they had done that twice. So they don't actually have anything. So they're just desperately trying to concoct something. So that was Fox News. Jump right into it. Of course, there are other flunkies and lapdogs in the white supremacist media, of course, were desperate to come to Trump's aid. Of course, Jewish white supremacist Ben Shapiro. He thinks he's the boy wonder, even at his advanced age there. And the problem is you start thinking you're a whole lot smarter than you are, a whole lot longer than you actually are. So Ben Shapiro attempts to jump in there, and he decides, well, don't worry, I can clean this up. And Ben saw very quickly. Now, here's the thing. Benny Boy saw very quickly that this was a bad thing and that you couldn't really defend it. So he tries to give himself an out. To start talking this down, he attempts to give himself an out. He wasn't at all as confident as solidly confident as he would need to be.
Of those who were on board, they are still apparently notifying next of kin. Officials tell NPR the Black Hawk was supposed to be flying at a maximum of 200 feet. Sources say it was flying at least 100 feet higher. So at the very least, what you're looking at here is significant pilot error. All sorts of controversy broke out yesterday when President came forward to do a press conference on this particular issue, and he blamed the crash, at least in part, on the Biden administration and diversity, equity, and inclusion procedures, particularly at the FAA.
A group within the FAA, another story, determined that the workforce was too white, that they had concerted efforts to get the administration to change that and to change it immediately. This was in the Obama administration just prior to my getting there. And we took care of African Americans, Hispanic Americans. We took care of everybody at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It's one of the reasons I won. But they actually came out with a directive, too white. And we want the people that are competent.
Okay, so what you're saying is the air traffic controller was not competent because they were not white. Okay, you got to hold that. Now, Ben Shapiro realized really quickly here, this was Trump trying to come out later to try to clean up. Ben Shapiro realized, oh hell, this ain't really the move to make.
Now, was this crash related to DEI? It's unclear at this point. We simply don't have enough information to know.
Damn! Oh hell, did y'all see that? Let me back it up so you can see right off of him playing Trump's clip. Ben immediately starts to back off of it.
The administration to change that and to change it immediately. This was in the Obama administration just prior to my getting there. And we took care of African Americans, Hispanic Americans. We took care of everybody at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It's one of the reasons I won. But they actually came out with a directive, too white. And we want the people that are competent.
Okay, now, was this crash related to DEI? It's unclear at this point. We simply don't have enough information to know who even the pilots were. What exactly were the procedures that led to this horrifying accident? What exactly happened? I mean, all those details are unclear. It is, however, true that the FAA in particular, the Federal Aviation Administration, has been direly affected by DEI protocols and procedures over the course of the last decade.
So do you see how the cowardly white supremacist scum, he even has, did this have anything to do with DEI? Not clear. In other words, no. Because Ben Shapiro already knows what the rest of us know. Everyone involved in this incident in a command position was white. Everyone involved was white. And Ben knew this when he was talking. And yet it's not clear. So he's hoping against hope you can find a black person, a mixed person. He's hoping you can find somebody that you can tie up into this. Trust me, when we established that all the pilots and air traffic controllers, once you establish that DEI had nothing to do with that, he's then going to tell you that whoever the supervisor was. What? Oh, trust me, he's going to tell you whoever the supervisor was over the folk at the tower. Why, that's the DEI problem. And if there's nobody white directly involved, he's just going to say, well, you know, the FAA likes that kind of thing. So even when there's nothing to substantiate it, he will then ultimately have to break down to, I'm white and I say so. But he just admitted to you, DEI has nothing to do with it. By the way, the same thing in California. The wildfires in California, there wasn't an issue of staffing with firefighters. It isn't that there are not enough men firefighters. It isn't that there too many women couldn't pick up the firefighting hoses and that's why the wildfires broke out in the Palisades. But they finally had to be reduced, and Bill Maher, too, another white supremacist, had to be reduced to saying, well, the problem was you were spending energy. This is what they said. You were spending energy focused on DEI that you could have been focused on preparing for wildfires. While they cannot quantify, quote, how much energy was focused on, quote, DEI, but they claim that if you were focused on DEI at all, why, you could have prevented the fires if you hadn't spent that 10 minutes on DEI. That 10 minutes made all the difference. This is how pathetic it is. So it's like being in a room with a bunch of scumbag lawyers trying to come up with any crazy rationale. Is there some dimension of connection to this issue that we don't like that we can point to? Some rationale that we can fabricate. And this is how pathetic it's gotten. Folks, we saw this with the Boeing planes. You had all kinds of white supremacists on YouTube. Tucker Carlson. Oh, I got to remind you, Tucker Carlson was one of the chief white supremacists. Tried to blame the issues at Boeing on DEI. Well, you know, after the pandemic, Boeing initiated a DEI program, and there were females and black females who were in charge at Spirit Aerosystems and Boeing, and that was the issue. And all the whistleblowers at Boeing said, actually, the issue has been going on for over a decade. Truthfully, the issue started when Boeing merged with McDonnell Douglas. And the company was no longer run by engineers. It was run by business people whose goal was to keep costs down. But as soon as they see an issue, now what they're showing you is that these think tanks and these think groups, they're not run by really sophisticated people like Lee Atwater anymore. They're not run by those guys. See, those were sophisticated white supremacists who wouldn't make clumsy mistakes like this. Instead, you got desperate white supremacists who are like, man, screw it. Just say something, throw the lie out there, and hope it bounces as far down the road as it can before anybody figures out what's going on. That's what they're doing now. Lie big, lie huge. Hope that it makes as much traction going down the road as it can before people debunk it. And by the time people realize, hey, you're a filthy liar, they'll be focused on other things, and that lie will quickly fade away. So they started, obviously they've all gotten together and said, anytime anything bad happens, find a way to link it to black folk. Find a way to blame, say black people. If you had just left it in the white men's hands, if you had just let us practice our covert racism, everything would have been fine. The problem is you're too many unqualified Negroes. That's the issue. even though DEI doesn't really do anything for us either. You need to make America white again. So understand that's the strategy that they're working on. What you see here is these folks in their back channels and their little think tanks and their little get-togethers and their CPACs, they've all gotten together, and the memo has gotten around. If something bad happens, we need a tragedy that we can pin on black folk. The code word, the new nigga code word, DEI. We need something we can blame on black folk and say that if you weren't giving them so many opportunities, this tragedy wouldn't have occurred. Oh, Boeing, the doors wouldn't have flown off even though there were nothing but white men involved. Well, there were some black folk somewhere. I mean, look, they had DEI, so we don't know where in the company that was happening, but we know it was DEI, but we can confirm it was all white men. Don't worry about that. DEI, DEI. Somebody said, do Jews count as DEI? No, because they can code switch when they need to. Ben Shapiro is Jewish when it matters, and he's white when it's to his convenience. So that's always been the issue. So, I mean, as long as they can code switch, no. Nope. So they've shown you the desperation is set in. It's gotten bad. It's gotten awful. But they're also showing you what the strategy and what the plan is. If there is a disaster, we don't have any there are no unqualified black folk you can point to, which means if it is doing anything for us, we're obviously excelling at our positions. We're excelling at it. So find a tragedy and then lie about it. Find a tragedy and then lie on it. Go ahead and lie about it. Go ahead and do that. And that's where they are with it. You know that you are losing and you know you're weak and pathetic when that's what you have to do. Now, folks, I'm going to warn you here in advance. I've got a lot of clips here to go through tonight. So it is a jam-packed program. I have a lot to go through here. I mean, a whole lot. Well, first of all, let's focus on a couple of things here. When I put up my posts, because I understood from the very beginning, I understood what was happening. I got on this from the minute that Trump said what he said. I had jumped on it, and I was warning people about what was happening. I was warning them about what was occurring, and the white supremacists everywhere, usually they jump on them kind of posts. Even they understood how bad this was because they got real quiet. Now, here's a clip here that had been passed around because they understood from the beginning they were desperate. Why were they desperate? Here's the reality. They're desperate because they know that commercial airliners, because of white supremacy and racism, you don't have any appreciable numbers of black folk who are pilots at the commercial airliner level, much less the regional level. And as far as the military Black Hawk, that's not going to be any black people flying that. So as soon as they heard it was a Black Hawk, they knew there were no black people involved with the military plane. And they also knew there were no black folk involved with that commercial jet either. So they knew that from the very instant that they heard what kind of aircraft these were. They were hoping this would be something, damn, this ain't going to work. They knew immediately there were no black people to blame, but they were desperate they could do something. When it became clear from the outset that that wasn't gonna be available, when it became obvious that that wasn't gonna actually be available and you weren't gonna be able to blame it on nobody, then let me tell you the real desperation is set in. They said, all right, screw it. There are no black people to blame. Let's see if we can find some undesirable whites to throw under the bus.
Yeah, I guess the pilot of the Black Hawk, Joe Ellis, if you look into it, it's a part of that group and identifies as a woman. And they say the way the helicopter was moving, it's almost like intentional, like it was suicide. But I don't know if she was, because Trump was I think he banned that stuff in the military. She's probably going to lose her career. So this doesn't look like an accident. So it looks like.
I hope you get sued. You, this fella here, and all the other folk who are promoting this. If Joe Ellis he, she, or whatever sues the daylights out of all of you. I mean, Alex Jones you. I hope they Alex Jones you. Well, Jason, why would you say that? Because a simple Google search would have been able to fix all of this for anybody there who wanted to know. A simple Google search would have been able to fix this. It would have been very, very clear to you that that's not a good idea. I want to play CNN, but I got to be careful about what I play with CNN. Got to be careful about them. I'll play something briefly here from Smirkanish on CNN. By the way, fair use, CNN, fair use. You should be thanking me for the damn numbers.
It was that night that the tragedy occurred on the Potomac. And by Thursday night and Friday morning, Joe Ellis was falsely accused of piloting the Black Hawk helicopter that collided with the American Airlines jet. And then absolutely horrific headlines like this. Offensive, conspiracy-fueled tweets ensued that went viral. Joe Ellis was the #2 most trending topic in the United States on X late Friday morning with more than 90,000 posts, according to Trends24, a website that tracks trending topics. I suspect the visibility that came from the radio interview, along with the article we published at smirkanish.com, put Joe's name in play such that she became an easy target for some of the twisted voices that have outsized influence online.
So this guy here and others sat up here and posted this thing about Joe Ellis because they went looking to say, there are no black people you can blame. Let's go see if we can find a trans person that we can blame. Let's try that. So they chose the only trans Black Hawk helicopter pilot they could find and then went straight to immediately defaming them. And by the way, in case anybody was wondering if it's a conspiracy theory or not, meet Joe Ellis, very much alive and well.
And threats. Joining me now is Joe Ellis. Nice to see you, Joe. How did this all happen from your perspective? Where were you? What were you doing when you found that you were being blamed for the Washington catastrophe?
Thank you for having me, Michael. I want to reiterate that I'm speaking in a personal status, not representing the National Guard, U.S. Army, or Department of Defense.
All right, I think that's enough right there. So, Joe, the transition is apparently still ongoing. But in any case, that's Joe Ellis. The Black Hawk helicopter pilot. Everybody's dead. Joe Ellis is clearly very much still alive and very much unhappy that folks are saying that he, she, they were piloting that Black Hawk. So this is how pathetic the attempts to create a DEI crisis are. And what I'm saying is that this is good. Damn.
And deal with it.
Oh, this is good. I mean, you didn't even make it out of your first damn week good before you screwed around and found out. He went from the high of staring down the Colombian government. Oh, he went from the mountaintop down to the valley low. And it only took a few days for your inherent white supremacist deficiencies to screw up your whole damn life. People, there's an old saying, when you become obsessed with the enemy, you become the enemy. And Trump and the white supremacists and the Ben Shapiros and the rest of them are so obsessed with finding some way to smear us, to slur us. They're so obsessed with it, and there's nothing they can use. So they say, well, that doesn't matter. We're white. And we say so. And if we say that you're a crisis and a problem, anything we grab, why, there'll be some way to pin it on you. And they went sailing. They didn't jump over the shark. They went sailing over it. Oh, it was incredibly bad. It's gone incredibly awful to the extent that they can't even find a trans person, a trans white person that they can throw this on. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. And it's bad out there. Oh, it's gotten bad for them. And then it gets worse because then the Black Channel comes on the weekends and continues to bring the pain train. Well, you know, I was the guy who told you all I'm not going to go jumping off into anything there because I'm going to make very, very sure the things I say before I say them. Wouldn't want to end up like Ben Shapiro and Trump and Fox News. I wouldn't want that to happen. So, by the way, in case anybody was wondering, yeah, early on when they attempted their speculation and they attempted their disinformation and attempted to imply that there was some black cause to this, and if you didn't let in so many black folk, this wouldn't have occurred. Well, oh, I'll be damned if the father of one of the Black Hawk pilots sits up here and jumps up on CBS and says, I got a few choice words about Trump and DEI.
Welcome back. We are learning more about the victims in the Black Hawk. Here's his reaction.
I know they've identified one of the pilots, but if the other pilot was a woman, to me, I can't imagine being the parents of that other pilot if she was a girl, saying that, because she's a woman, she was less capable than the man. I can't imagine the horror that those parents must be going through. I mean, I'm hoping that's not the case. I don't know who the other pilot was, but Ryan, I know Ryan respected the people that he flew with and trusted them with his life. And, you know, you don't get to do something in the Army unless you're qualified. You know, you have to earn your spot to be moved into the ladder, to be put into that helicopter. They don't just give it to you. You earn it.
Damn. Well, that wasn't very helpful for the white supremacist DEI propaganda folk. Well, this is damned awkward. This is damned awkward. He comes out immediately and says that, well, this is sure gonna make slurring people a hell of a lot harder. This becomes an uphill damn climb. Yeah, your phony trans pilot story got shot down. The father of one of the Black Hawk pilots comes jumping up. Boy, this blew up in your damn face quick. It went bad. This went super bad, super fast. I'll be damned. What the hell's a white supremacist supposed to do? Well, what he's supposed to do is he's supposed to jump his happy, stupid ass back out there and think he's going to clean this up because he's white and he says so. Trump realized immediately this went bad. This went real, real bad. It goes great on X. It goes great on Twitter, but it gets real, real bad.
Of the most competent people in the
Trump decides to get out there and say some more. Now, this is from Good Morning America, Fair Use Disney. I'm giving y'all the business too. Fair Use Disney. They have a compilation of Trump basically trying to stand firm and then immediately starting to ease on back on that. As soon as he got taken to task, he started easing back.
Score his own agenda.
This morning, with the investigation just beginning, President Trump is claiming without any evidence that Democrats' diversity programs are to blame for the tragedy.
We are going to have the most competent people in the country in our control towers, not people that are there for any other reason.
Are Karen Travers pressing him?
Mr. President, to be clear, are you saying race or gender played a role in this tragedy?
It may have. I don't know. Incompetence might have played a role. We'll let you know that. But we want the most competent people. We don't care what race they are.
You see, the problem in a white supremacist society is that to them, this is their grandpa. This is Paw. The old dude in the family who's got a bunch of money, a bunch of old contacts, a bunch of influence. They're used to having somebody in the family who's bat crap crazy and stupid, but he's got money, so everybody has to bow down and lay down because he's papered up. They're used to this. You see this at the city level, the county level across America, the gubernatorial level, the Senate level. So in the dominant society, they used to this. They got one of these in every other family in the dominant society. So you and I are sitting here saying, what the hell? And they're just like, oh, it's Tuesday. It's just another Wednesday. Oh, we see this all the time. So he says the most outlandish nonsense. And it's just like, man, just shut the hell up. This doesn't get any better. But because they all bow down, it enables him, it emboldens him, and then he gets more bold and bold until eventually it's just nonstop 24-hour streaming babble. And I certainly encourage him to keep it up.
It's not people that are there for any other reason.
without any evidence that Democrats' diversity programs are to blame for the tragedy.
We are going to have the most competent people in the country in our control towers, not people that are there for any other reason.
Are Karen Travers pressing him?
Mr. President, to be clear, are you saying race or gender played a role in this tragedy?
It may have. I don't know. Incompetence might have played a role. We'll let you know that. But we want the most competent people. We don't care what race they are.
In the briefing room, the president accusing his predecessors of hiring air traffic controllers based on diversity goals, not qualifications. I asked the president, where's his proof?
Are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else.
It could have been. It also could have been caused by geese or birds. You've had more of those issues than anything else. You didn't suggest that. It could have been caused by a mechanical malfunction when you're dealing with Sikorsky products. Remember, Kobe Bryant was in a Sikorsky. It could have been one of those. It could have been any number of issues. It could have been malfunctioning of the equipment. This is the whole reason why Boeing is a scandal. Because of the MCAS system. So it could have been a number of things that we've already seen on a regular basis that people run into on a regular basis. And the only thing that you mention is that. So why did this get mentioned over all the other things that are more common? Why did you highlight this? Because you're looking to go at black folk and you don't have any way to justify it. You're looking to put unqualified white men back in the position they said, well, we have a divine right to it. And you don't have anything to justify it, so you were desperately hoping that this would be it. And then you just jumped on it without checking to see, by the way, is there anything in there we can actually use first? But it would have required you to wait. Well, Jason, why can't they wait? Because you see, contrary to popular belief, you can't really ride that illegal alien deportation train for a real long time. What? Folks, please understand, eventually, no matter what you do, the stuff that you do recedes into the background. So in Trump's case, he's the showman. He's been on television. He's desperate to stay in front of the televisions. And so in order to be relevant, he got to bring you something new and something new and something new. So when something does occur, he just jumps on whatever there's the biggest news story, he jumps on it. And if it's something that actually he can have some sort of impact or impression on, he's immediately going to go for the most extreme thing he can first. Because it's getting attention. And so he went and jumped on it because it's getting attention. And he didn't even bother to check if it was rational or sensible first. He was just like, screw it, jump out. I'm Trump. Whatever I say, folks will roll with it. And then he said this and thought, well, don't worry, this will smooth up. Well, I said it could. No. You're not going to be able to do that. Where's your proof of that? Well, I mean, it could be. Please understand, he's very worried about this. This was Donald Trump's Kamala Harris. I'm not going to do just something for black people. No! This is one of those things that crystallizes. Dozens of people dead, and he attempts to exploit their deaths for nakedly shameful political purposes with no justification whatsoever. This one gonna stick to you. You won't be able to walk this one back. This was so nakedly wrong and unscrupulous. This one's gonna stick to you. That's why even your white supremacist buddies online and on Twitter, even they're not even bothering to try to troll for this, because even they understand, damn, dude, just screwed up. We can't talk you out of this one.
Of diversity hiring, and what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power. You have to go by psychological quality.
But Trump also acknowledged he doesn't know if the air traffic controllers made any mistakes.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense.
Former President Biden.
There you go. Well, how did you come to that conclusion? Because I have common sense. Folks, The reason why so many people out there in the dominant society like Donald Trump is because he is what I've always told you. He is the epitome of unchecked white power. I'm white and I say so. That he literally just sat there and said it to you when the man said, how do you know diversity had anything to do with this? I got common sense. But nothing you said proved anything. I'm white and I say so. Common sense. I'm white and I say so. I say it's common sense. Can't you tell? So it's I'm white and I say so. There it is. This is what happens when you feed somebody a bunch of power and they're just not ready for it. And you feed them more and then they get more bold. And then they keep pushing more of the line and pushing more of it. It gets further and further out until eventually you can't freaking see them. That's what ends up happening. Now, I could bring up a couple of things here, by the way. I could bring up a couple of things from day one of his administration. Anybody remember this? Damn! Oh boy, January 21st. Google is a wonderful thing, but then again, so is my memory. Trump fires the heads of the TSA, Coast Guard, and guts key aviation safety advisory committee. That was January 21st. There's a reason that Ben Shapiro and the other white supremacists don't really want to talk about this anymore. They're like, our job is to run interference for him, but damn, we wish he wouldn't do stuff like this because we can't. Dude, you did this. You don't want headlines like this jumping out and people saying, by the way, excuse me. Yeah, you're so concerned about FAA security and safety that day one you did what? Don't worry, the white supremacists out there will attempt to jump in the way and try to argue these things away. It's going to be an uphill fight for you dudes. Going to be an uphill fight for you. Ain't going to go well. Case in point, 2023, Associated Press, FAA leader warns summer travel havoc if GOP Republicans if their cuts pass. They're talking about they wanted to make cuts in law, in budgets. This is 2023 now, May of 2023, almost 2 years ago. Oh, people, I didn't bring receipts. I brought invoices. I don't just tell you what you paid. I tell you what you owe. Did you really think that a damn thing gonna change? Hey, I said it to y'all. Whoever is in the White House, you gonna get the smoke. Let the butt-kissing niggas out there who play politics like football make an ass of themselves. I don't play that game. Whoever's in the White House, you ask for the ball, you responsible for it. Biden was in the White House for 4 years. You get the smoke, barbecue all day, every day, 24 hours. Ain't gonna quit. Trump, you in the White House now. Prepare for the smoke. Get ready to smoke. So now it's your damn turn. Trump is somewhere not telling, can we get some assassins to kill that nigga down there? Can we get some assassins in Louisiana to go kill that nigga? This is 2023. The acting head of the Federal Aviation Administration said Friday that budget cuts approved by House Republicans would cause the agency to furlough, that means lay off, thousands of workers and stop hiring new air traffic controllers. Damn! This is May 2023. The FAA acting administrator, Billy Nolan, said in a letter to lawmakers that spending cuts also would slow efforts to modernize technology, including an alert system that failed in January and briefly grounded planes across the country. Nolan issued the warning in a required report to Congress about a shortage of air traffic controllers. He said the FAA is on pace to hit its goal of hiring 1,500 controllers by the end of September. Keep your eyes on that one right there because I brought all the invoices tonight. The FAA was on pace to hit its goal of hiring 1,500 controllers by the end of September 2023 and is chipping away at a shortage that was made worse by the pandemic when the agency suspended training new controllers. Quote, despite these efforts, the spending cuts recently passed by the House of Representatives would wreak havoc on summer air travel. He was letting you know that, by the way, yeah, the Republicans were so concerned they've been trying to they want to cut the damn budget so much they're cutting the FAA. Next time you all hear about debt limit increases, by the way, from the same article, this is what they went on to say. Last month, this was back in May of 2023, last month the House approved legislation to raise the U.S. debt limit and ensure that the government can pay its bills. But in a close party line vote, Republicans attached deep cuts in domestic spending, plus restrictions on the IRS and a ban on student loan relief. Republicans on the House Transportation Committee declined to comment. And you better believe they're going to be quiet as hell this month. Oh, you better believe it happened in January, but in February, you ain't going to be able to get them to say a damn thing. The House-passed measure is almost certain to be blocked in the Senate or killed with a presidential veto, but Republicans hope they can force President Joe Biden to negotiate and accept deeper domestic cuts than he would prefer. According to the report that Nolan sent to Congress, the FAA ended last September with 10,578 certified controllers, short of its target of 12,062, with another 3,000 people in various stages of training. Folks, this was back in 2023. 2023. There's a reason why I'm bringing that up in particular, in case anybody thinks it's a Biden issue. In case anybody thinks that that's the issue. I'm going to take you to someplace different. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the website of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association. On your screen is from the National Air Traffic Controllers Association. Now, this was from a few years ago, but there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. This is from 2017. Who was president then, by the way? In 2017, who was president in 2017? Yikes. Quick reference, issue, staffing crisis. Air traffic controller staffing continues to be a major concern for NATCA, National Air Traffic Controller Association, as the FAA remains at a 29-year low for certified professional controllers. Folks, do you all remember something that happened when, I'm going to say it. Does anybody remember when Ronald Wilson Reagan, when he came to the White House? Anybody remember that? No? Oh, okay. Anybody remember when Reagan came to the White House? But Jason, that was way before 29 years ago. What was one of the first things that Reagan did when he came to the White House? He went to the air traffic controllers, remember? Y'all remember that? Went for firing the air traffic controller. Anybody? That was one of the first things he did when he went into office, was go straight at the air traffic controllers. So what was the goal? Yeah, we need to get y'all down some. We looking to cut some things and you're on the block. What do you know? So at this point here, I'm going to go there. We're going to go there, folks. We sure are. 29 years from 2017. Well, what year was it? If you go back 30 years before 2017, folks, what year would that have been? I'm going to let y'all do the math right quick. 30 years before 2017, what year would that have been? What year was that if it was 30 years before 2017? What year was that? Okay, that'd be 1987, but if you want to be precise, 1988. If you want to go 29 years, making the math a little simple for you. It would have been 1987. We'll go ahead and move that to 1988. Well, who was president in 1987? And who was president in 1988? By the way, who was president in 1988? Oh, I'm sorry. That was kind of transitioning, wasn't it? Oh, actually, that was transitioning, wasn't it, by the way? But by the way, who was president by the time we get to 88? Yeah, actually, it was. Yeah, one the same. Yeah, you had a little bit of a transition there, but by the way, yeah, it was him. It sure was. Yikes. Oh, I'm all the white supremacists who usually get very bold right now, and it's like, did you really check your receipts? Did you check your invoices? Oh, we brought our invoices, all right. We sure did. The air traffic controllers are telling you that, by the way, we've been hurting now for 3 decades. This was back in 2017. We've been hurting for 3 decades. 3 decades, and who was it who kicked us down there? Yikes. In recent years, NATCA has advocated for several pieces of legislation that have become law, which have revamped the FAA's hiring process to help alleviate the staffing crisis. Oh, so they're saying y'all passed laws that helped alleviate that. I'll be damned. However, the FAA must work with NATCA to address staffing in a more comprehensive manner. Whose FAA was the NATC complaining about here? Who was president in 2017? Because that's the FAA that they're saying in recent years, legislation has passed that they were happy with is the air traffic controllers that addressed the hiring processes and staffing levels. But then they say, however, the FAA now, 2017, who was president in 2017 that they're complaining about? The FAA must work with NATCA to address staffing in a more comprehensive manner. Despite recent progress, there is still more that must be done. If this staffing crisis continues, the FAA will be hard-pressed to maintain current capacity, let alone expand or modernize the system. Anybody who's been to China, anybody who's been to the Middle East, anybody who's been to Mexico, you understand that air traffic is exploding all over the damn place. They just revamped LaGuardia, renovations on that, and JFK. So expansions at DFW, Hartsfield, Jackson, and then regional airports and stuff, Nashville, Raleigh. You go down the list. So the air traffic controllers, you need more of them than ever. You've got more air traffic than you've ever had. And they were screaming 8 years ago, hey, if y'all keep this up, we're hard pressed to maintain the current capacity. We already got one person trying to do 2 and 3 people's jobs, much less expand what we're doing. They were warning you back in 2017 when President Donald Dunce was sitting at the helm. They were complaining then. Oh, don't worry. We're going to bring all the invoices tonight. Anybody who wants to defend him, by the way, I got invoices for you, and you will be required to call up if you dispute. Oh, we ready tonight? Oh, trust me, if you're a dummy who's all you do is listen to Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire and Fox News, it ain't going to go well for you. It ain't going to go well for you. Here's what they had to say. If you go to it there and take a look at what they said. Matter of fact, why don't I go ahead? I'm going to go ahead and throw this link in the chat room for you all, so you can go ahead and see that for yourselves. You'll have the time, for those of you who watch this live or recorded, you'll have the ability to go ahead and take a look at that for yourselves there. All right, go ahead and throw that up in the chat room for you. Make sure we're all covered. And I want you to see what they had to say here, because I found this to be of particular interest from back in 2017. It says, full background, issue. Air traffic controller staffing has been a concern for many years. It reached a crisis level in 2015, and despite recent progress, it remains a crisis. The National Airspace System, NAS, has reached a 29-year low in the number of certified professional controllers. Controller staffing has fallen nearly 10% since 2011, and a significant percentage of the certified controller workforce remains eligible to retire. More than 17%. Stop and go funding for the FAA has made this problem worse, with sequestration, look, Look it up. Forcing the FAA to suspend hiring and shutter its training academy for most of 2013. If this staffing crisis continues, the FAA will be hard-pressed to maintain current capacity, let alone modernize the system and expand it for new users such as commercial space and unmanned aircraft systems. Now, if you want to read that, I think it goes into really good detail about these things, because when you go into the background down here, this part right here I felt was pretty relevant, because it explains to you why that time period that they just named, 2013, why they're giving dates to these things, because it actually matters. So if you want to know where Donald Dunst and Ben Shapiro and the rest of them, why this was wrong for them to jump off into an area they had no knowledge of, this is why. The Air Traffic Controllers Association, this is back in 2017, said the air traffic controller workforce is in the midst of a staffing crisis. Sequestration forced the FAA to institute a hiring freeze and shutter the FAA Academy between March and December 2013. The hiring freeze compounded an already tenuous staffing situation in which the FAA had barely been able to replace hiring controllers. Now, let me deal with a couple of things right here right quick. Remember who was president back in 2013? Barack Hussein Obama. Okay, but do you also remember who was in charge of the Senate? If you all remember who was there, well, what was it that Mitch McConnell said? That his intent was that Barack Obama be a one-term president. So who does the Constitution give control of the money and the budget to? The House and the Senate. They're the ones who get to control it. So if they want to start cutting back on things, the president is going to be hard-pressed to do anything about it if they're all ganging up on him. So who was president in 2013? Who was pressing for cuts to government? Okay, one of the cuts is, by the way, hey, we're going to have a hiring freeze. We're going to have sequestration. We're going to shutter the academy. Okay, because you don't have as many people to defend the FAA's union as you do in other places. So, okay, you're going to take it on the chin. So before anybody tries to back up Fox News or whatever, by the way, you don't want to play this little game. We're ready for you. The old black media will fail. I ain't looking for a job from these people. We're ready for you. Ready for you. It goes on to say here that even increased hiring in 2015, 2016, and 2017 did not make up for the attrition experienced from 2013 through 2017. What? What they're saying is that people who retired or were fired or just left, they're saying that all the folk they hired didn't make up for the amount of people that they're losing. Retirees, fired, quit. Yeah, we've increased hiring, but it's not making up for the number of folk we're losing. As a result, the FAA remains unable to adequately staff many facilities. Now, here's the part that Ben Shapiro and friends, when they try to try out DEI and all this stuff, by the way, here's the part they don't tell you. And this is why they would never have somebody like me, or they're not going to have anybody who actually knows anything about this to say anything, because, yeah, it kind of beats you down before you get started. These are things y'all don't know. This is what they're telling you. New hires who are admitted into the FAA Academy beginning in June 2018 will require 2 to 4 years of training before they become fully trained and capable of separating traffic on their own. Moreover, of those who are admitted, currently only 60% of students in either the tower/terminal or en route options will successfully complete their academy training before moving on to train at their facility. Fully certified air traffic controllers, known as CPCs, must train these new hires. So folks, if you're a trainee, you're going to have to be trained by a currently certified air traffic controller, the guy who's currently in the tower. But listen to the next sentence. CPCs, certified air traffic controllers, must train these new hires, often taking those controllers away from their primary job of separating traffic. Thus, facilities that are already at critical staffing levels defined as requiring mandatory overtime and a 6-day work week to fully staff all positions are facing a dire situation as retirement-eligible controllers continue to retire at a high rate and those left on the job begin the time-intensive process of training academy graduates. So what they're telling you is that the current air traffic controllers who are sitting in the tower, they have to split their attention between monitoring the aircraft and training the new person behind them. That's what they have to do. They're telling you that. Did they explain that to you over there on Fox News and Friends? Did they tell you that part? Last but not least here, the FAA's 2018 controller workforce plan is problematic. Now, who was president in 2017? And they're talking about the 2018. Well, who's president in 2018? Well, the person who was proposing the 2018 budget in the 2018 work plan in 2017. So who are they complaining about? The FAA's 2018 controller workforce plan is problematic for a number of reasons and is another example of how the FAA's bureaucracy is negatively affecting operational staffing. In particular, the CWP, controller workforce plan, ignores the staffing targets that the National Association of Air Traffic Controllers jointly developed with the FAA's air traffic organization to meet the agency's operational needs. The CWP also relies on actual onboard headcount staffing numbers used by FAA Financial Services, which lump together CPCs with CPCITs, previously certified controllers who re-enter training due to a transfer to another facility, and developmental stage trainees. These issues, in addition to others, render the CWP inaccurate and misleading. This was back in 2017 that they were saying this. This was back in 2017 that they were saying that. How in the world is it they were doing that all the way back then and nobody's brought that up? Nobody mentioned that. There's a reason for that. These other folks won't tell you those things. Now I'm going to go ahead and take you deeper off into this. You got your YouTube channels to do aviation and whatnot. You want to go ahead and get into this federal thing here. You want to go ahead and get to the numbers of it. I have absolutely no problem whatsoever doing that with you here, because there is something called the Air Traffic Controller Workforce Plan. Yikes, the CWP. Damn! What? Oh, did Jason go and actually look it up? Well, yeah, I actually did. Yes, I actually did go and look that up, as a matter of fact. I certainly did. Why don't we go back to 2016? Oh, man. Oh, boy. Oh, okay. All the Daily Wire people and the Fox News people are reaching for their Pepto-Bismol and Mylanta right now. Oh, they're starting to get heartburn and stomach aches. That ulcer is acting up on them. Yeah, buddy. Your religion of white supremacy is about to run into math. So, going back here, they were showing the numbers for 2012, 2013, their projections basically going forward of what they were doing there. So you see, the print there is really, really small. In 2012, they had actually hired 925 people. They lost 1,132, I think that is. And then the next year, they projected, what we're going to do for hiring. Headcount So you can see what the numbers look like then. My real thing is take a look at the numbers for 2017, 2018, 2019. They projected that they were going to lose like 1,100 people, 1,200 people, depending on what year you're looking at. And you can see what their planned hires and expected losses were at that time. Mercifully, the graphs get a little bit better as time goes on there. Mercifully, it gets a little bit better. Then we come to 2018. Now, this is their CWP that they just mentioned before. Now, that report that I read to you from the NAT, National Air Traffic Control Association, that report was, their commentary was 2017. By the time you get to 2018, here's the numbers, the actual numbers, and then their projections going forward. So they try to give a 10-year projection. In 2018, the actual numbers were planned hires. The actual numbers were 1,787, and their losses were 1,573. They projected that in 2019, they would hire 907 people and that they would lose 1,311. Damn! Did you get that? What they're trying to show you is that at least for the next 5 years, they're projecting we're going to lose more people than we hire. That was back in 2018. Going here for 2019, now you can see what they projected, that they would hire 907 and lose 1,311. When they actually get for 2019, the actual numbers that they got were 1,010 people hired, but 1,330 were lost. So they had estimated that they would lose 1,311. They actually lost 1,330, so they were pretty damn close. That was 2019. 2020. Actual numbers, 920 were gained. They hired 920, lost 1,053. So when you take a look at the previous year, they had projected that they would hire in 2020 910 and lose 1,190. So their numbers were actually pretty close there. If you actually take a look at it, their numbers were actually pretty close. They figured they were going to hold steady at hiring for the next few years. They figured they would stay at 910 for the next few years. Spoiler alert. Anyway, they projected in 2020 that they would only be able to hire 500 people in 2021. And 982 people would be lost. And that in 2022, they would jump again. So the pandemic jumped off about this time. So this makes sense when the pandemic happened. But what they're telling you is that, do you all realize that we continued losing people at a steady rate, despite the fact that the pandemic smacked our numbers of hiring down? We continued to lose people. We were consistently losing more people than we were able to hire. And what they're showing you is they were hiring people by the thousands, not the hundreds, the thousands. By the way, this one right here, update for 2024, the Air Traffic Controller Workforce Plan. Federal Aviation Administration plans to hire and train several thousand air traffic controllers over the next decade. FAA's controller workforce reached 13,853 in fiscal 2023. The FAA hired 1,512 new controllers in fiscal 2023 and has hired more than 4,975 controllers over the last 5 years, and you shouldn't do that. But in 2023, they're saying that they hired 1,512 people. Well, you can see what they were expecting to lose. I haven't found the graph for it there, for the graphic for it, but I'll keep looking. Hadn't found the graphic for it there, but I'll keep looking. And I'll bring these things up to say, by the way, Ben Shapiro and friends never went into the numbers to show people that this is what they actually were dealing with and what they've actually been experiencing. And I've walked you through it year by year. Now, some people would say, well, Jason, why don't... Now, right now, as I understand it, the FAA, according to what I heard, they're like 4,000 people short of where they're supposed to be. They've got like, I think the number I heard was 10,000 air traffic controllers at this time, and they really need 14,000. Well, you would be led to say, well, why don't they just go ahead and hire as many of them as they need? But you do understand from what you just heard, that won't work. It doesn't work that way because, remember, because of the regulations and because of procedure, you need a certified air traffic controller to train the new people who want to become air traffic controllers. But they're going to be doing the training in the tower at the time that they're doing their own job. So for those of you who worked in corporate America, we call that shadowing or nesting. So you've got these new people who are going to be shadowing you while you, the air traffic controller, are trying to direct traffic. So you're going in to do your job, and now you got to train these people for months or years until they get up to speed. Okay, so do you realize how hard that's going to be if you got 2 trainees up in there? What you going to do, put 10? You're going to put 10 people in there he needs to train at the same time? How is he ever going to do his job with 10 people around him? So, for those of you who might not have thought this through, the short-sighted pea-brain Ben Shapiros of the world, whose IQs can't make it past their hairlines, if they still have one. By the way, folks, that was the reason why I read to you what the air traffic controller's procedure is, so that you understand. He's telling you, hey, it takes us years to get somebody properly trained. And he's going to be sitting in there with the current air traffic controller, who's going to have to split his attention between training this new person and landing the damn plane. So what that tells you is that every airport you all are at right now, the air traffic controllers in that tower are training new people as you speak, while he's directing traffic for the plane you're sitting on. Never mind the fact that a lot of the folk won't even make it through the training process. It takes a certified traffic controller to train a new person. He's the only one who can do that. You've got a limited number of them. You can't pile 10 times the workload on them. Does it make sense now? Ben Shapiro, put down the white supremacist cornflakes long enough to see if we can get this through your head. Can we get this through that yarmulke right quick? Think, McFly, think. No, I'm not being condescending right now. I'm just bringing you all to reality to say, by the way, did anybody explain it to you like this? If you were wondering, why don't they just hire a bunch more people? Why didn't Obama just hire a bunch more people? Why didn't Trump just hire a bunch more people? And then you have the back and forth tug of war of people trying to cut the federal budget, which does need to be reduced, but then they're looking at the air traffic controllers and saying, hey, let's tighten your belt. And the air traffic controllers are like, wait, who gonna land the plane? And the Republicans will just say, screw it, make do with it. And that's what you end up with until eventually, unfortunately, tragically, eventually, with thousands of planes flying around America every day, eventually somebody's gonna slip. And I'm not saying that the air traffic controller slipped. What I'm saying is that eventually something's gonna go wrong. And I'm not saying air traffic control went wrong. What I am saying is that anybody who's worked in aviation, I got a bunch of private pilots listening to me right now who will tell you air traffic control is a mess in America. I mean, it works, but it could certainly be a lot better. Everybody who's a pilot today knows America's airways are congested. We got too much going on. Everybody and their mama's trying to get in the air. And Reagan Airport is one of the most hilariously congested airways in America. I've been to Washington, D.C. many a moon. Everybody who's on the Baltimore, Washington Expressway there, you see the Black Hawks and the helicopters flying over literally all the time. If you go to the Capitol District, you're going to see a Black Hawk fly by roughly about every 30 minutes. If it takes you that long. You're going to see Black Hawks, helicopters are flying over that place literally every 30 minutes. You're going to see something fly by every 30 minutes. You have no problem getting aircraft footage in Washington, D.C. in the Capitol District. I've been there many a moon. You will have no problem getting aircraft footage of anything you want. Airplanes, helicopters, VIPs, you name it, military aircraft. They got something within an hour of that place you can see. Some within an hour. Yes, I'm being generous with the 30 minutes. It's no problem to on a busy day, on a busy day, the noise never stops. What? Like on Sundays, Sunday in DC is the busiest day of the damn week for tourists. Sunday is the busiest. Saturday and Sunday are the busiest damn days, but in my opinion, Sunday is the busiest. The noise never stops. The noise from the helicopters, the noise from the airplanes on the Sunday, it don't never stop. It never quits. My folk in DC, y'all live it. It never stops on Sundays. Okay. So what I'm saying, what they should have done was tell there's a military base out there, y'all all know it, and they go up the river following that because they're doing procedures. Okay, but that you're going straight past the airport where the commercial traffic is, with an airport that shouldn't be sitting where it is. By the way, first and foremost, Reagan Airport shouldn't be there, but we all know why it's there. It's there so that the congressmen and senators can have ease. It makes it a shorter commute for them to get to their offices in the Capitol District. So they keep Reagan Airport open so that the congressmen who live outside of Virginia, it makes it more convenient for them to just fly into town, and then they have a shorter distance from there to the Capitol, to their offices at the Capitol building. When they know full damn well that airport is egregiously congested. It is egregiously overburdened. There's way too much traffic there. But they've left it there anyway. Because it works out for them. And of course, President Donald Dunce won't say a word about that. And don't expect any of your congressmen, Democrats or Republicans, to say anything about that either. There's Dulles, there's BWI. Yeah, you got others that would need to be expanded, but it will take more time to get to anybody who's had to drive into DC, and I've driven many a moon. I mean, DC, it can be unpleasant to have to make, especially coming from Baltimore. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be doing that one on a regular basis either. But the bottom line is, America was not created with roads and infrastructure built for airports. It was hundreds of years ago. You didn't even have a light bulb back then. So if you are going to retain this historic district in its pristine condition, then you're going to have to put the airport out there somewhere. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson did not have air travel, much less heavy air travel, in mind when they laid out Washington, D.C. with the help of the black slaves. Nobody was thinking about that. Nobody. It is not a cakewalk to get to the Capitol from Dulles or BWI. BWI is way out there, but it's not a cakewalk to get there from either one. It's not pleasant. Somebody talking about trains and buses. Your congressmen don't want to sit next to your ass.
And deal with it, nigga.
Your Congress people don't want to sit next to you. You got folks out here shooting CEOs, man. What are you talking about? You got folk out here, they shooting CEOs. They tried to shoot Trump 3 or 4 times in the last 6-7 months. They don't want to sit next to you. You think they want to sit next to you after they saw that? One of our congressmen here in Louisiana, I don't want to say mine because I don't claim his ass. Steve Scalise made international news. They were having a damn softball game. The fella said, hey, I ain't brought no softballs, but can I throw some lead? Can I throw some bullets? Tried to kill the man. Gabby Giffords. How many congressional people have you seen get killed or almost get their ass killed in the last decade, man? Folks ain't playing no games out here. If they can get at you, they gonna get at you. You start telling people that you take the train and the bus to the Capitol buildings. Oh, okay. Glad you told me that. Good, because I'm through talking and I'm through voting. I'm done talking and I'm done voting. So, what time does your train show up? Okay, just checking. All right. So they don't want to sit next to you? Like a lot of y'all are just talking, complain. There's a few folk who are like, yeah, I'm through talking. Yeah, I don't like the situation. I want to change it, but I'm through talking. Yeah, damn talking. So, yeah, that a lot of y'all like, let them take the train, let them take the bus. They're like, man, nigga, please. Ain't no way in hell. When they out here clipping corporate CEOs just walking down the street, they out here clipping them. Congressman shows up for a meet and greet. The man tries to murder her. Steve Scalise is trying to play softballs. Like, hey, let me bust a few caps. No. They have no interest in meeting none of y'all in an environment they can't check you for weapons first. Yeah, they through with that. They are done with that. So they're like, yeah, let me go ahead and take this airplane flight. Let me do this because they check everybody. You can't bring no weapons in the airport. At least we know that. So let me do that and let me get in my car and come drive this Capitol building and keep it pushing. So, folks, when you actually think about these situations and think about the circumstances and actually look at what's actually occurring, you see why it's happening. You see why it's occurring. And it does make sense, but what I'm saying is, okay, if you're going to fix this, it ain't a DEI issue. So when you heard Ben Shapiro tell you that, what that means is they stopped hiring people. It's not about them not hiring people. I just explained to you why the staffing crisis can't be just resolved by saying, okay, let's hire 6,000. If we're short 4,000 people, then we need to hire 4,000 new people this year. That's not the way it works. It takes years for them to get you trained up to be competent as an air traffic controller, and there's a limited number of people qualified to be able to do that, and you gonna do on-the-job training, which means you're gonna be up in that tower during working hours. And Ben Shapiro does not know this. But you see, as a white supremacist, he didn't check into that because that would destroy his narrative. He just wants you to hate black folk. And so he's going to tell you whatever he thinks will do that. And when I sit here and make a clown and an ass of him, well, don't look for these other folk to call him up and say, by the way, Ben, here's the procedure for how becoming an air traffic controller works. What you said was absolute nonsense. You can't be unqualified and make it as an air traffic controller. You can't. It won't work. In the chat room, Beauty with Brains, that's exactly what they're doing, ma'am. That's why they're showing you their workforce plan. Remember the workforce plan, the CWP that they were talking about in the article? I brought it up for y'all. This is the workforce plan. And as you can see, it projects out for 10 years. 2012, they started doing these back in 2004, for those of you who want to know. So after 9/11, they started doing these in 2004. They project out for 10 years. They project their staffing projections for 10 years. How many they're going to hire and how many they're going to lose. So, ma'am, they're way ahead of you. They've been doing it. This is why they project out for 10 years. Hey, this is our outlook. Next year, this is our outlook. Next year, this is our, forget a 5-year outlook. They got a 10-year outlook. And they've been screaming, hey, there's a problem. Yeah, we need more people, but we need the FAA to coordinate and work with us so that we can manage the levels, get more people in here. Our biggest issue is the lossage rate. And then y'all start talking about furloughing people, cutting budgets, cutting head count, because you want to get the federal budget down, which Ben Shapiro is always in favor of, right up until we say things like this. Then everybody wants to cut the damn budget until somebody's plane falls out the air. Then all of a sudden, oh hell. All of a sudden, hell. In the chat room, we don't know if the lights were off on that thing actually, so let's not make assertions. We suspect that it may have been a training exercise and they were using night vision. That they were training them on using their night vision while piloting the aircraft. So right now, it's speculation. Nobody's really sure what happened. What folks really want to know is what happened in that about the last minute when they went up. How did they were supposed to be down at 200 feet. Now, here's the other thing, folks. To make things even more damaging, and by the way, listen up, Ben Shapiro, you might learn something strictly by accident. In your case, that's the only way it could ever be acquired. For the airspace around Reagan Airport, when the jet commercial traffic is making its final approach, they're supposed to be at 400 feet. The Black Hawks are supposed to be at 200 feet. But people, do you realize what you just said? That means that the congressmen and the folks who put together the air traffic control plan at Reagan International Airport are allowing for only 200 feet of clearance between the commercial aircraft and the military aircraft? What? That's what they're saying. And Ben Shapiro didn't go into that because that has nothing to do with DEI. Those were all white men like you, Ben. But for those of you who did not know, I'm giving you the information you'll receive on no other YouTube channel, unless you stumble across somebody who's got the same information. By the way, the clearance there, the commercial traffic's supposed to be at 400 feet and the military traffic's supposed to be at 200. So what they're saying is our daily plan is that there's only 200 feet of clearance between the commercial aircraft and the military aircraft. Well, we got to do it because the military needs to come through here for their training, and Congress wants the airport to remain fully staffed and fully open. So you're treating Reagan Airport like it has the ability to handle all this traffic, and it doesn't. Or at least you can do it, but there's going to be no margin for error. Everybody got to do exactly what they're supposed to do, exactly when they're supposed to do it. You can't have any mistakes. And the Black Hawk helicopter moved 150 feet away from where it was supposed to be. For those of you who don't know how far it is, 3 garden hoses, a football field and a half. They moved that feet, and that was it. Well, half a football field. And that was it. That's all the distance they needed to make a tragedy. Okay, who said that? Who thought this was a great idea? And you'll point to the FAA and they're like, hey, Congress said this. That everybody wants the economic stimulus and everybody wants the economic traffic. Everybody who comes to DC, they want to come through Reagan because it puts them right near the Capitol District. So everybody wants more and more people want to get here and more people want to show up, and nobody wants to reduce the air traffic because everybody want to get in and nobody wants to go to Dulles or go to BWI unless they consider that to be the Negro Leagues. So nobody will let us bring the traffic down in the area because everybody wants to use it. And then one day a Black Hawk comes through and 150 feet is the difference between just another evening and a life-changing tragedy. And you didn't hear Ben Shapiro or anybody else talk about, by the way, what about FAA procedures and why are they that way? No, you went to the absolutely evil, and if you wish to know what the face of evil is, Ben Shapiro, look at these eyebrows. That is the face of evil. Evil is when you should be being thoughtful about this and being accurate about it. By the way, FAA procedures, because of congressional will, is what mixed together this toxic soup that allowed this to occur. And by the way, you'll remember the very next day they asked Trump would they be stopping military traffic from coming through that area. And he boldly said, no, we won't. Well, guess what? After this whole damn thing blew up in his damn face, he then does a 180 and, we're going to put a freeze on military traffic coming through. Well, now he says it. But reflexively, nope, we're going to keep things just the way they are. Dude, did you hear about what happened? It was a military helicopter hit. Next day, this guy's all over the damn place. Yeah, don't believe me, folks. You can go look it up for yourselves. I can go find the damn bite. I can go find it, but just Google it for yourselves. First, he was asked whether he was going to suspend the military traffic. Nope, not going to do it. Turns around the next day. Go ahead and freeze that damn thing. Freeze it. Yeah, we ain't doing that. And then the reality is that nobody has sat down and made a comprehensive agreement to understand what they have to do. Well, Jason, why is it that Congress would not want to reduce the number of aircraft coming through Reagan Airport? People, in case you didn't know, most of your Congress people fly domestic just like you do. What? Folks who live in D.C., many of you have been on airplanes with congressmen and senators. They don't have private jets. So your senators from California, your senators from Texas, your senators from Louisiana, they don't drive up to D.C., they fly. Okay, but they fly domestic along with most of us, even though I don't get on airplanes, but they fly domestic. Okay, they don't want fewer flights because that means that would reduce the number of options that they have to schedule a flight for themselves. In many cases, these people are making their reservations 24 or 12 hours in advance. Ayo, plenty of them fly out of Reagan. Please Google. I don't have time to stop. Just Google, please. It's not even going to argue this. Please use Google. It's a fantastic resource. It's a new thing. Most people don't know it. It's a new thing, but yeah. They don't want to have to do that. So with that, they don't have private planes because they're the folk who really pay them their kickbacks. They can't really do private planes. They can't really do that. So they don't want to reduce the number of airplanes because very often they have to book some at the last minute. If you reduce the number of airplanes, then you're going to book all the planes very quickly. And when you book all the planes very quickly, it gives them fewer options. So yeah, they want as many planes for their convenience. They want as many planes as they have there for their convenience. Take a look in the chat room. There's a bunch of y'all been on airplanes with congressmen, senators. Yes. And this is the way it's always been. They don't have private planes. They're on the damn plane with y'all. They might be in first class, but they're on the damn plane with you. Some of them who don't manage their money right are sitting in coach with the rest of y'all. But I'm just saying that they're there with everybody else. And they want ease of access to their congressional offices. And as they get older in their jobs, they get more entitled. And so this is a situation where the spaghetti soup that you call air traffic direction at Reagan International is that way because it makes it convenient for the Congress people who live there and the lobbyists and everybody else who wants to fly in and out of D.C. They want to leave the Capitol building, go straight to Reagan and get out of town, or come into Reagan and be right there. This all could have been avoided. It could have been avoided if you have presidents and a Congress that thinks about something other than the very next election cycle or the very next day. It can be avoided when you can do that. It cannot be avoided when these are your priorities. That something happens and your first thought is, how do I capitalize on the deaths of dozens to promote my white supremacist ideology because we want to put we want to make people psychologically adverse to anyone but white men being in charge of something. We want to make people psychologically averse and make them think it's their fault and they're wrong for it. Why you should want to see more white men. And if we do start firing all the Negroes, trust us, they were all unqualified. Trust me. And so they don't have a tragedy that they can seize on. They don't have a genuine, legitimate tragedy that they can point to and say that this wouldn't have happened if you didn't have so many Negroes. So instead, these cowardly, scum-sucking, dirtbag bastards are reduced to jumping on something that happened, and this week it blew up in their faces spectacularly. And they're already worried. You're just this early in your presidency, and you figured Trump would make it about a few months at least, maybe a year before heading in the midterms, before he lost all legitimacy and credibility. He barely made it a week. And by the way, did I call it or did I call it? Did I warn everyone that this was inevitable? This was the only way it could have happened, because this is what he did last time, because this is who he is, because this is who the people around him are. They're too stupid and ignorant and silly to actually be cognizant of anything else. So this is what they're reduced to. This is what they're reduced to now. And I said it before. And I warned everybody, Trump is gonna repeat the same mistakes he made before. All the things that you hated about him before, it won't be very long before he reminds you. I told everybody, it won't be long before he reminds you. Oh yeah, and one more thing, in case anybody else was wondering, or wondering whether or not I was on top of the game about that. Just a brief reminder here. By the way, now everyone is finding out what I said from the beginning. Vivek, the so-called Silicon Valley rich dude, had a falling out with Elon Musk over who was gonna run this thing. And I told you all, when they get done, the little colored dude gonna be the one leaving, not Elon. Well, I'll be damned. Now everybody's starting to admit, yeah, it was Elon who pushed Vivek out. Vivek probably went to Trump and said, Elon's being bad again, put him in his place. And Trump said, yeah, Elon can stick around. Hey, Vivek, I need you to work with Elon. You're on the low end of the totem pole ethnically, so you need to work with Elon. I told y'all they're not going to get along. They can't. I said this before the election. I said this on election night. I said it after. They're not going to be able to get along. They were at each other's throats just a year and a half ago, people. I said this before. They were at each other's throats just a year and a half ago. The same people. Hell, 3 years ago, Megyn Kelly and Donald Trump were at each other. Now, all of a sudden, they're the damn village people? Pause. All of a sudden, they're the get-along gang? No, they were at each other's throats before. It is a marriage of psychotic convenience. They weren't getting along before. They will not get along now. And now that they actually have power, they're voting each other off the damn island. Didn't make it out of their first week. People, it didn't take months for that to fall apart. It fell apart in the first week. They're at each other in their first week. They're undermining each other in their first week. And right when Trump looked like he may have had a few days of winning under his belt, hey, we're going to kick these illegals out. And oh yeah, one more thing, by the way, it sure is a whole lot easier to get around Walmart than it used to be, ain't it?
And deal with it, nigga.
Oh man, it's so much easier to get around Walmart and Target. Boy, I'm telling you, we kind of just speeding through them lines now, ain't we? Oh man, it's so much easier to get through some of these places. It used to be congested. It sure is a whole lot easier to get through there now, ain't it? Boy, you're showing up at the damn gas station now. It's not as tough to get through. It's not as busy as it used to be. Man, something must have happened in the last couple of weeks. All of a sudden, man, we all able to zip through and get through. We used to only have one day of the damn week. You have to show up first in the morning on Thursday. Now, man, you can zip through and get on out now. It's the good old days. Yeah, I couldn't help but notice. I did notice that, by the way. It sure is a whole lot quicker getting our business taken care of. Yes, sir. Standing in line, it ain't taking nearly as long to stand in line no more. Not nearly as much. Oh, it's a whole lot better now. We can breathe. Got a little bit of breathing room through here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot less congested now. I couldn't help but notice that. Whole lot better. Whole lot better. So, yes, sir. All right. Gave him a little bit of an update on that. I warned you all that their basic character flaws would expose and show themselves just as soon as they hit that White House. I told Jason, why ain't you worried? People, I wasn't worried in 2020 when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden won the election. Y'all saw me up in here, man. I was cool as a cucumber. Wasn't worried then. Trump got elected. Not worried now. Stick with your anchor man of the new black media. We're going to be on top of that. By the way, while I'm talking to you all here, speaking to these folks there is an event that is coming up in Albany, in New York, February 14th. I'm inviting everyone who is in that New York area. Unfortunately, the cheaper tickets are no longer available if they ever were in the first place, but it's going to be a little get together for the assembly people there, and I will be in attendance. What? Oh, yes, I will be on the spot. I will be there. Probably going to see about putting the link up for you all. But for anyone who wants to join us for that, I intend to certainly be there. They invited us after this last thing we showed up for. Miss President of the Senate there told us about that, and we're like, okay. Very glad you invited us. We will be there. Now, there is a cost to get in. So because of that, for those of you in the New York area, if I know who you are and you are dependable, I am willing to foot the bill for that myself. Damn! So for those of you, if you're in the New York area and I know you, if you done tricked off your damn money already through the you already done spent your tax return, you went and got yourself an advance on your tax return, and you've already spent it to go buy yourself a brand new Nissan Murano. You put $500 down and you're going to be paying $600 a month. What? Some of y'all, you got that 2017 Nissan Rogue. Your tax return just hit, so you went and got that 2017 Nissan Rogue. With the roll down windows. It doesn't have the power windows, but just in case you went ahead and already did that. If you live in the New York area, and if I recognize who you are there, for some of y'all there, I want as many folk available for this as I can. I want as many people available for this as we can here. And we're going to pull up. We're going to go ahead and talk to everybody and let them know what the agenda is. So I'd like to have as many people there as we can. So I'm probably going to see if I might wind up buying up all the rest of the tickets. Because it does, like at this point right now, it's the cheaper ones are gone. So everything else costs some money. But that's okay. That's okay. Because we're going to be there. That's okay. So just letting y'all know that's coming up for the 14th. So for my people in New York who are available for that, we're planning on pulling up. We're planning on pulling up, and we're going to let them know what the agenda is and what we're expecting. Also, I'm planning on having a conference call. So everybody who will be involved, be aware. I want to have a conference call for all of us, so that we can all discuss exactly what it is we're interested in talking about and what it'll be. So after we've gotten everybody ready for that, after everybody has been confirmed for that, I want us to get together so we can coordinate. By the way, you're going to have to do this quickly. I have a sneaking suspicion that the reason why so many tickets were not available, I got a sneaking suspicion that the reason why so many tickets may not have been available is because these folks was doing what they do. So we're going to get that up here and going. I'm going to go ahead and get that link for you all and post it in the chat room there. I'm going to go ahead and get the link and post it in the chat so you all can see that. So give me a few moments. I'll go ahead and get that up for you here as well. Let me go ahead and just see about taking care of that now here. In the meantime, I want to thank everyone, and I do mean everybody who's contributed to the nice program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Shout out here to my man, Mr. Waits. Stay positive. Thank you very much for your support. We appreciate that as well. My man, Mark B. And, of course, Mr. Richburg, as always, thank you very much for your support, brother. We appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and take a very brief commercial non-commercial break. I'm going to go ahead and post up that link to it. Want to see that there? I'll be on site. We'll be looking for you here. Y'all thought 2025 was going to be boring. This is the Black Channel.
When you visit MrBeTheTeacher.com, you can get a copy of his award-winning book, Guidelines for the Successful Student. While you're there, grab one of his newest tunes along with fun and educational lyric videos.
Never give up, don't worry, never give up, study. In order to
1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6. Now swap names, he, she, they, and we. Simplify the daddy divides as the father and guide. Mommy multiplies and shares on what they buy.
You can also acquire his tutoring services via varsitytutors.com or tutor.com. If you wish to speak to Steve Burgess directly, you can do so through MrBeTheTeacher.com.
The Honey Badger and the Mongoose is a children's story for the family of how a honey badger and mongoose fight an evil alliance of venomous cobra snakes and hyenas that overhauls the balance of the savannah. The Big Five. The honey badger demands reparations. Will the Big Five give the honey badger reparations? Can the evil alliance of cobras and hyenas be stopped? The best new price for the hard and soft cover is at www.thehoneyBadgerandthemongoose.com. You can also find this book at Amazon, Audible, and Kindle.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. I've gone ahead and posted the link in the chat room there. Let me go ahead and post it again. So that should take care of that there for you. Yes, I will be in the place. Yes, I will. So I plan on being on site for that. I got a number of folks who are going to be with me there. Now, here's the thing. Some folks, their real plan is they think that because it's going to cost you to get in, that's going to prevent folk from wanting to show up. So, their idea is that as long as, I think one of the things they started deciding was, okay, well, if it doesn't cost anything, then that's why folks be running up. So, if we charge for something, they ain't going to be there. Okay, I got something for that. I got something for that. I have something for that. So, if you're in the New York area and if I know who you are and whatnot, I want to get as many of those as I can. I want as many of those as I can. I'm already working on getting some party favors together. I'm already working on that. All right, let me go ahead and go over here to the Zoom. Let me go ahead and get over here on the Zoom. All right, let me see if I can get D up here on the Zoom. By the way, everybody on D, please make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on. Nobody else is going to see you except for me. I'm the only one who will see you, but just make sure we don't have any trolling issues. Just make sure you have your camera and microphone turned on, just so we can make sure nobody's trying to troll us on here. The rest of YouTube will not see you. It's just me. But just to make sure that we don't have any trolling issues, that'll be important. So D, going to give you 5 more seconds to go ahead and get that resolved for me here. I don't know if you're trying to say anything or whatever, but you don't have your camera turned on for me. So just make sure we don't have any trolling issues. We want to make sure that. Okay, D is not going to be joining us for the rest of the evening here. They're not going to be joining us for that. All right, let me go ahead and see if we can get Elijah up here on Zoom. All right, Brother Elijah. Let me see if we can get you up here first. All right, there you go. All right, Brother Elijah, what's on your mind?
All right. Hey, good evening, big brother. Hey, D1 to you. He was making a good point about these politicians and with this DEI foolishness. They really did stoop that low, and they was just trying to find this imaginary black person, and I'm trying to figure out, like, we can't even, there's just certain jobs we can't really touch like that. Why would they want to just go that low on us in the first place?
Because this is finishing the old business of the civil rights legislation. What happened when they opened up civil rights legislation? Remember what they did? All these so-called, quote, jobs for black people. That was their way of getting black folk out of the streets, was opening up a bunch of government jobs. So
Yes,
black
sir.
folk didn't have employment. Okay, they're underemployed, was frozen out. So we're going to give y'all government jobs along with government assistance. When we already had Black Wall Street and everything, you needed to give us reparations for what was taken from us, and we'll take care of the rest from there. So that was their effort to try to not do the right thing and put you in the box they can control you. Okay, but in the process, you've created this system where black folk get brought in for government jobs. And when you hear these politicians since Reagan talk about, quote, downsizing government, they're talking about your black ass. They're talking about you. So the first thing they go for are the government agencies that employ black folk. So
Yes, sir.
the post office, air traffic control, Social Security office. It's not a bunch of white women up there. Every Social Security office in America got a bunch of black women.
Yes.
Just like Walmart. I don't give a damn where you are in America. New York or New Orleans, there's a bunch of black women there. You go to the DMV, it's a bunch of black women there. Well, that's the way it's always been. So when they talk about, quote, downsizing government, they're talking about you. When they're talking about downsizing the schools and reducing the Department of Education, they're talking about you. Lee Atwater said that it used to be that you could sit up here and say no niggers loud. Well, you can't say that anymore. So we had to get more sophisticated. So it had to be against affirmative action. Well, you just created affirmative action because of white supremacy. Well, now we got to get rid of it. But these things, as time has gone on, you can't really say that and stuff. So they got more sophisticated. So now it becomes lowering taxes. Everything is a euphemism for getting at us. You see, so you talk about lowering taxes and, charter schools as a tactic for knowing that these are things that will disproportionately harm black people. And that's what he said.
Yes, sir.
Now, you're talking about these subjects with a knowledge that it will disproportionately disadvantage black people. Yeah, there going to be some white folk in there, but the majority of them going to be the folk that we going at. And that's the reason. So when you hear them, all these government agencies and whatnot, and then you notice that, by the way, y'all are big about the government agencies, but none of y'all are trying to cut back on these military contractors that get hundreds of billions to the point that you have $1 trillion year after year that is unaccounted for? How the hell do you have $1 trillion you can't find 2 and 3 years in a row? $1 trillion? Man, come on now. They did their auditing of the Pentagon. It's like, wait a minute, how much did you just lose? Nigga, I can see you losing a $100 bill. How do you lose hundreds of billions and $1 trillion? How unaccounted for? How the hell did you lose that?
Yes, sir.
And okay, but nobody demanding a military audit. Brother, I don't even know how old you are, Elijah, but we've been talking about
40.
this.
I'm 40.
Okay, the nigga, you know we've been talking about this since 9/11.
Yes, sir.
We've been talking about this since 9/11. We've been talking about the black budgets and the off-the-books budgets. We've been talking about that since 9/11.
Yes, sir.
We've been talking about that. Ain't nobody circled back to go say, hey, don't we need to clean up these black budgets? These opaque budgets, don't nobody, because the truth of the matter is, we talk about the Pentagon budget, but the problem with the black budget, for those of you who don't know, those unregistered expenses that Dick Cheney and George W. Bush put through, folks, the problem with those is that we don't actually know how much the Pentagon spends. What? We don't. Because there's the part that is on the budget, and then there's the so-called black budget, the opaque, where they're just allowed to spend, but they're not required to report.
Yes, sir.
Trump and nobody else has said, by the way, don't we need to go clean that up? This is how you end up with Northrop Grumman with a plane that don't really work. Or it doesn't work consistently. Here's $1 trillion for that. The Joint Strike Fighter. It works some of the time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but let me hold that $1 trillion in the meantime. Whether it works or not, let me get that. But we really need, hey, you need us for these planes. Why don't you go cut the budget over there at the air traffic controllers? Why don't you do that? Don't cut our budget. Go cut theirs. And by the way, another seed of white supremacy here. For those of you who did not understand it, I'll give you the 720 degrees of analysis you receive absolutely nowhere else. This dovetails off of Elon Musk, just like NASA pays SpaceX for its development of those rockets that make Elon Musk the richest man on the planet, depending on when you're valuing him. Same thing happens with Northrop Grumman. Same thing happens with General Dynamics. Same thing happens with General Electric. Same thing happens with Boeing. Same thing happens with Sikorsky. The Pentagon and the Defense Department pay them to develop these fighter jets. They pay these companies to develop them. So they're actually bidding to get money to develop them. So you're like, okay, we'll develop a new plane and we figure it's going to cost about $500 billion to create. And then another company says, well, we can develop one. We think we can develop it for $400 billion. Okay, here's the problem. The first thing to do is, okay, well, of course, you say, all right, well, we'll give the contract to the guy who says he can develop it for $400 billion. What do you think happens after they get the contract for $400 billion? He comes back 5 years later and tells you, oh, it's going to cost us another $100 billion to finish this. And then the next year they come back and say it's going to cost us another $200 billion to finish this. And that's standard procedure with your defense contractors. Standard procedure. That's how the, quote, bidding process works. When you talk about Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin and Boeing, they bid and the bidding process is bullcrap.
Yes, sir.
Whatever number they gave, first of all, you're paying them. They're not even developing it on their own and asking to get reimbursed. You're paying them to develop it. And then, of course, they lie. And then as soon as you give them the contract, okay, we going to need a whole lot more of that. And then they start breaking off more bread. And that's the way it's been. Now, that's the part that we can see. I can show you that one. Over there in Iraq, you can't see that budget. You can't see the budget for Iraq, Afghanistan, the Middle East. You can't see none of that. You're only going to see the part for the service people. Special operations, all that. You can't see any of that. That's black budget. It's off the books. Nobody's allowed to see it.
Yes, sir.
All the media and folk can do is make estimates. And that's how we knew that the defense budget was actually, well, they were talking about $600 billion. We're like, no, the defense budget, they've actually spent over $1 trillion a year in Iraq. $1 trillion a year. Do you realize how many millionaires and billionaires they created with that? They talk about that movie, what's his name? Channing Tatum and Noah, what his name was. They were these arms dealers. I'm like, do you realize how many of those were made? All white men. Wasn't no black men able to do that. Wasn't no black men who got rich being arms dealers, buying bullets on eBay and selling them to the Defense Department. By the way, that's what was happening. Yeah, that movie War Dogs. There was a bunch of white men, y'all. There were a bunch of white men. They're talking about the movie War Dogs. There was a bunch of white dudes, college students, man. They were making money like going on eBay, buying ammunition, selling it to the Defense Department. However, they got bullets and whatever. Your black ass wasn't allowed to do it. You couldn't do it, and you can't do it today. They would have brought you up on weapons charges. So what I'm saying is that I'm piecing that right there together because you're not going to see Elon Musk tell anybody to go look at that defense budget. Because if you start criticizing the Defense Department like that, you got to go do NASA the same damn way. It's like, by the way, let's take a look at them NASA books. Hey, Elon, we need to check over them NASA books right quick to see whether or not this is all squaring up. So don't expect anybody to see that. So the whole reason for this, brother, is this is cleaning up what they started back in the 1960s. They've been chipping away at it and whatnot, and now they're continuing to do so. They go after any government agency, and in reality, they don't mean everybody, they just mean us. When they get done, it's like, okay, all the Negroes will be gone, and it'll be back to business as usual, and then they'll tell you everything's all right. Don't give a damn if planes are colliding once a week.
Wow. Well, I do have another question to add to what you just said, and then I got one comment about the congressman, and I'm gonna land my plane. You said something, what you just said about the post office, generally the jobs that hire black people. My question is it an administration thing, per administration? Because, okay, the Democrats will come back and then they'll start a new hiring freeze. Hiring for more black people, or this is just is this going to be permanent? Because I was even reading Trump is trying to get rid of federal unions.
Well, yeah, there's a whole problem of it there is that once you hire them in the federal government, you can't really get rid of them. So that's why Trump is talking about, okay, let's see if we can buy people out and this, that, and the other. So they're having to resort to more desperate tactics because all those people who have been fired, you can't just get rid of them. The federal government union like the post office and whatnot, those are the strongest unions in America as far as their ability to be locked in and can't really be removed. So you can't use regular tactics to get rid of these people. You're not gonna be able to get rid of them in mass the old way. You're gonna have to come up with a whole new game plan to do that. So they hire people, and the problem is once they're hired, as long as they show up for work, they're pretty much gonna be hired for life. Unless they do something just egregious. But other than that, you can't just lay them off like AT&T and them do. You can't just do that. You would have to get Congress to approve that. You can't just do it. And the president can't really do it singularly by himself either.
Yes, sir.
So you have a lot you got to go through. You have a lot you got to make happen. It's a pain, man. It's difficult. And yes, the federal government is too large. Yes, the federal government spends too much. That is true.
Yes, sir.
But when you take a look at that defense budget, there's a lot of fat you can trim off of that. Nobody circles around and say, by the way, can't we cut this down? Nobody does that. They want to take a look at Social Security and Medicaid. I'm all for doing that too, although you should start kicking the old bastards who will own it today. We need to start there.
Yes, sir.
Everybody wants to sit up here and kick the can down the road until the future generations hears the bill. And that's the thing I don't approve of.
Yes, sir.
So now you know why they're targeting people.
All right. Now, my last comment, and I'm going to land my plane, I promise. You was talking about the Congress people, and that makes sense why they have Ronald Reagan National Airport and everything like that, because it's just right across the Potomac River and everything in Virginia. And you said it right, because generally when I fly, if I'm in New York, most of the time I get a cheaper rate. I take the Amtrak Acela and I take that to Washington, and I'll go to BWI or I'll go to Dulles because I'll get a cheaper rate in a lot regards instead of JFK and everything like that. But you said it right that where Ronald Reagan is, yeah, that's just directly for the people who work in the Congress. But my whole thing is, why couldn't they just if they really wanted to, why don't they just make that I guess in a situation like this, why don't they just make that just strictly for the government employees?
If it doesn't target black folk, they're not interested in doing that. Just remember, you're the target.
Yes,
so
sir.
it's you have to try to target us with a minimum of casualties on everybody else. But everybody knows what the game plan is. They know what the game plan is. They know what the strategy is. They know what the actual objective is. They know what it really is. So they'll talk about money, but they really mean you. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me go ahead and see if we can try D in LA one more time. We'll give D in LA one more time here. D, going to give you 5 more seconds here, and then we need to go on. But D in LA, we're going to give D one more chance here, see if they get their act together. Waiting for D in LA there. All right, D, what is on your mind?
What's up, family? My bad for earlier. If a military Black Hawk helicopter is blowing up a plane, you can then call that an act of war. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you could if it actually blew the plane up. Sure, you could. Nobody's doing that.
Sure. Right. Because no one wants, my bad, but like no one wants to blame the military when they're high up in these places of power.
Yeah, I mean, you need that. It's just like with the police. You know, you need to be able to recruit people to go fight your wars. So they're going to be very reluctant to reduce that or put a big onus on it. They don't want to have a bunch of negativity on that because they're first and foremost concerned. You can't. It's hard to talk big talk against China if China knows your military isn't that big. So that's the way that goes. As long as they know you're fully staffed and you're fully capable, you're credible. If they know you're short staffed and you ain't really got it, yeah, but you got to keep people coming in there for it. So that's why nobody really bucks up on the military like that. Even when you see things like this, whatever the Department of Defense gets, it generally whatever they want, that's what they generally get, and that's the way it's been now since the end of World War II. Whatever they want, they pretty much get it. Don't matter how much it costs. It doesn't matter how crazy. It doesn't matter how much it costs the rest of us. Now, folk fall out the air. Whatever they need, just give it to them.
And it's crazy that 20 minutes before this story was happening, 20 minutes before that, another plane allegedly almost got crashed into by another Black Hawk. And you were saying that, that 2 weeks ago or like a week ago before that, people were seeing that all these helicopters were in the air. Like, so even if you want to blame DEI, whatever you want to do with that, the military, crashed into this plane. It's not like an incompetent person blew or, crashed into a military base. The military crashed it. So then miss me with these arguments of, DEI and this and that. No, bro, you're the one who cut the budget. So this is all on you. But more to the point that, so everyone wants to blame some kind of black person, right? But no one wants to blame the military? That's funny, Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, I mean, they jumped on it too quickly. They were just so eager for something to justify the narrative they want to push. They didn't even wait to find out if it's valid, is this real? But the other thing is they couldn't afford to wait. Now, there's the other problem. Because remember, you need what they are driven by is crises. We need a new crisis to push. So, okay, the illegals thing, you're already grounding them up. I can't talk about that now. So we need something else. And this was the only thing that presented itself.
So every week there's going to be some crazy, type of shit, just to avoid talking about the real shit, right?
Well, also one other thing though, this happened on Trump's watch. I mean, and nobody was even blaming him for it. But this happened on his watch. This happened under his administration. You asked for the job. So for him being as emotionally fragile as he is, what's the first thing he reflexively does? Try to deflect and get attention off. It's not my fault. I had nothing to do with it. This was actually Biden and Obama's fault when you think about it.
But imagine if it happened on their watch. You know what I mean? Like, either way, like, they don't want to talk about what actually happened. The military, crashed into this thing. They need excuses for anything and everything. We're the aggressor, and, reparations or no vote. I don't understand why we're still having this conversation in 2025. Like, I still don't get it. Like, they refuse to have this conversation on it's almost funny how they're not talking about this. It's crazy.
Well, it's good in that regard because we didn't get where we are because of what they're doing. The conversation is not run by CNN anymore. It's not run by MSNBC anymore. It's run over here. And there's a reason why. Like I say, we talk about this. Our conversation is trumping what they're saying. The conversation happening at the grassroots, that's trumping everything else. The fact that Ben Shapiro immediately jumped off of it, Trump came back and started walking it backwards. He ain't going to talk about this anymore. So if you bring it up, he's going to just get further and further back from it till eventually he doesn't say anything. So the bad news is, if you look into your corporate, and now I guess the good news is the corporate folk, I was talking about this first and then they started seizing on this. So that's another good thing about it is, they're following our lead. They're following the lead of what we're talking about, and they're probably going to hold on to it for as long as they can. I don't advise people to overdo things in that regard because, events will only unfold for a limited amount of time. What I am saying is that this is something that you're going to hear again. It's like, by the way, President Trump, if you think you've heard the last of this incident, you'll be hearing about this again. Well, Jason, when? I figure 2026, 2028, whichever the election will be, somewhere around there. Thank you very much for giving us a call now. We appreciate that. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Michael up here on Zoom. All right, where is Michael at? All right, there you go. Michael, what's on your mind, brother?
Listening to you, Jason, I've come to the conclusion that talk and thought are useless unless it leads to affirmative action. And I remember one time you said that we as FBAs, we don't even own a bicycle shop. And when I heard that, it inspired me to design a website, a technological website. And one of the sections is on aircraft. And if you scroll down that page, air traffic control is a window that you can open and that you can learn more on the subject. The site's name is ARC.
Okay, well, hold on a second, Michael. I don't allow advertising here, so that's, I don't know.
Okay, well, anyway, as I said, talk and thought are useless unless it leads one to action. And when I listen to you and when I listen to other people, it's great if we can listen to you, but unless it leads to some sort of action, it's pretty much useless.
I agree. So make sure you're acting. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Jeff up here on Zoom. Let me see if we can get Jeff on Zoom. I think we got Jeff on Zoom. What's on your mind, Jeff?
Hey, how are you, brother? Good to hear the program again. Did I just kick myself out?
No, Jeff. I thought you was lit for a moment. No, sir. We hear you. What's on?
Okay. Hey, man. A couple of things come to mind. I'll start with the question I have for you. Do you think that this air traffic control deficit is a purpose-built grease tracks for AI to take this job over?
Yes, but not quite in the manner you all think, but yes, in the sense that if you could have all of this computer controlled, well, that certainly would cut down on the number of people that you need, and thus you could cut the budget. So computerizing the system and automating it, that's been a dream now for decades. And of course, they're going to keep pushing for that. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but yeah, if they could do it, yeah. And somebody like Elon Musk, just like with the self-driving cars that can't drive themselves, you'll have some salesman trying to sell you on the idea that, oh, ours does it, and it really doesn't. But yeah, well, you see people trying to push more of that and using AI, even if it's not using AI, in order to sell the idea that, hey, you can cut head count if you let us have a computer system that does that. Yeah, you're going to see somebody try it. It ain't going to work. There's nothing viable, but yes, in short answer to your question is sure.
Well, and in that, the other thing that I keep seeing, and please tell me if you think this is just the wrong way to look at it. The taking away of every safety net that Trump is in the process of doing, which is away from common people, not just Black people, common people. I think this is fantastic for us as a whole, as in those who follow your media, those who believe in you as the new media, those who have been preparing ourselves. The rest are about to be put in French fry grease over this. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, first of all, we as Black folk in America, and specifically the descendants of the slaves, we've been dealing with this now for hundreds of years. So knocking us at the bottom of the barrel, it's like, by the way, you don't realize, I mean, we were already there, so it's not like we're going to be losing a whole lot anyway. You're going to have to get to other folk. And that's why I did the program here talking about that trans person. That's why I did that, because I'm like, by the way, you realize when they ran out of Black folk to go after, do you realize they didn't stop? There wasn't no Black folk to go after, so they just, okay, let me grab a low-hanging white person. And for the folk talking about DEI, that's like the white women in corporate America at these news networks were like, hey, wait a minute, DEI, that's us. That's white women. You talking about us too, so that's why they're pushing back. Because they're like, yeah, there's not enough Negroes to eliminate with DEI. Just like affirmative action, there's not enough Negroes to eliminate with that. That hits us. So I'm like, yeah, it's going to hit you. So what we're doing now is, if we cannot all be equally comfortable, damn it, we all going to be equally uncomfortable. You damn right. Now get your ass on over here, ma'am, so you can get some of this work too.
Speaking of that, that astonishes me with how Black women do not understand that every one of these hustles that everybody else has pushed forward has been pushed forward in their name, and they always get the chin end of the stick. Always. There has never been, correct me if I'm wrong, in mass, I've never seen anybody that represents any feminist system, any Black system, any group of any other size come in mass and go, that's wrong with Sandra Bland. That's wrong. This sister has been wrong. That sister has been wronged. So if they haven't, how then is it that it's just mostly the brothers who see that welfare for white women, DEI for white women, affirmative action for white women? How come many more of y'all don't see what we see?
I mean, no, everybody sees it. But as Dr. Francis Chris Wilson said, white people play dumb about racism, and Black folk play dumb along with them. So for the folk who up to this point have been allowed the luxury of playing stupid, gender warring is something is playing along. Everybody sees it. What you think you're going to do is you think you're going to seize upon this like Trump and use it for your individual benefit. Well, this will benefit me individually. And the real thing about it is play that game as long as you can. One of the reasons I wanted Trump in there is, he's an agent of chaos. I'm not going to vote for him, but he's an agent of chaos. And so the more he does, the more he wants. As long as he's getting attention, that's all he really cares about. So everybody else who's played the game, I'm like, you know what? I have no problem with it being survival of the fittest. I have no issue with that. because you got to understand, you have to civilize society in order to allow people to have the luxury of gender warring. You have to, that's a luxury product right there. Being able to say stupid stuff like that and strong and independent and I want a zaddy, that's a luxury product. When you got to suffer and you weren't worried about where your daily bread coming from, you don't make time or have the luxury of doing that.
Wait till there's the next crash. I don't know what it's going to be it environmental, financial, military, whatever is next, the next straw on the camel's back is going to take care of all of that so-called feminism, which, by the way, again, correct me if I'm wrong, feminism in this country is about the white woman being upset about not getting her fair share of what her man stole from the Indians. And I'm not quite sure what that has to do with black women here. But there is no, like the Ukraine, I don't think they have feminism there, do they? No, feminism is propped up by how strong your military is and how much shit the men in your country will take off of you. And I really don't think there are any other legs that hold it up.
Well, like I said, I mean, feminism was made so that ugly white women wouldn't be left out. So then we need a lane for us because the men are not going to give us their labor or their effort or their work. And the more they get, we keep getting left out. So we need a way to entitle ourselves to what the pretty girls get. And you know, like I say, it's like, hey, if the fellas ain't digging you, you got to work. I mean, that's just what's
that's the way it goes. And work harder. Lazy, ugly women, that defeat the purpose of being with an ugly woman. That doesn't work. That's against nature.
I concur.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. Yeah, like I say, it's just the more pain that gets spread around, the more difficult it is. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we want right there. So that people don't have the luxury of having stupid arguments and stupid discussions about stupid things that they're really just self-centered about. In reality, they're just being self-centered. So I'm like, yeah, go ahead and crank the heat up on that. And let's see if you still have the luxury of indulging in that. All the white women who supported Trump, he gonna go after the black folk, and first thing about this DEI stuff. And then they started realizing, we'll be damned, first thing they started doing is talking about women. Because y'all do understand that's what they're saying. Was there a female in the plane? You know that's a problem, right? If a female was in the plane. And there's a bunch of white women now who are looking around and saying, by the way, hey, wait a minute. They didn't say if the female did anything wrong. They're just saying, was she there? If there was a female in the plane, a female in the Black Hawk, if female in the control tower, if she was there, then she's the problem. We gonna pin this on you, not the white men who actually did it. We gonna pin this on you. If you were there, we're just all going to assume that you were responsible. No proof, no evidence. We're just gonna assume it was you. There's some white women whose ears have gone up and they're like, hey, wait a minute. This goes far beyond the Negroes, don't it? And the white men are like, yeah, this is our solution to feminism 1.0, 2.0, whatever else. Yeah, here's our solution to it. And you know what I'm saying? 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. Yes, sir. Let Trump go ahead and have his way. He gonna steamroll and bulldoze. Jason, why would you say that? Why would you want that right there? Because we gonna have this little conversation tonight. If you all will remember 12 years ago, from this very microphone, I warned white women back then after the murder of Trayvon Martin. All the white women who were cheering it on, all the immigrants who were cheering it on, all the folks who were sitting up there cheering that on and popping bottles, and all the folk who were doing that. And I warned everybody. There were some who took heed of it when I corrected them, but for those who didn't, I warned white women then. Y'all remember I did a program saying to them, by the way, you all have forgotten that the first slaves, the first legal human chattel property of European men were not Africans. The first human property of European men were their own women. And I can't say women, I have to say their own females. What? You were the first property of European men. You were. White men could just come up and walk up and grab you and throw them over your shoulder and walk off with you. You were the first property, and you've allowed yourself to forget that. And I said after Trayvon Martin, I said, don't worry, white men are about to remind you of your place in the pecking order. And now the DEI thing, as far as they're concerned, we can kill two birds with one stone. Oh, am I about to go here again? You damn right. Oh, y'all, the screw is already turning. The screw is already turning. Down there in Florida, you see there are where the rich white men are and the rich old Jewish men are. Shout out to y'all. And the rich Asian men, they already changed the laws down there to make it harder for these white women to get no alimony. Oh man, they thought they had it made. They thought they had it made. Let me tell you, they was down there yelling and screaming and whining and moaning and complaining. They was like, I'll be damned. You never thought you would see alimony laws get rolled back. Here comes the state of Florida. Oh, man. Ain't nothing the federal government can do about it. Here, hold this foot up your ass. Oh, man. Did Jason just give you all 720 degrees of analysis? And I warned them back then, oh, trust me. You all have helped them set a precedent tonight. Oh, yeah. And where was Trayvon Martin murdered at? Damn. Oh, yeah. One more thing. Where was Trayvon Martin murdered at? I forget. It slips my mind for some strange reason. But once I mentioned Florida and changing the alimony laws there, it just reminded me about Trayvon. I'm like, okay, well, where was he killed at again? One more time. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I remember. Now I remember. Yeah. Oh, some of y'all thought Jason was just talking out of his ear and he wouldn't remember this and wasn't going to be no callback to it and it wasn't going to be relevant. Oh, yes, I very much remember what I said. I very much remember telling them what it was going to be. And I'll be damned if it didn't break down just like that. Here they come. All the white women who were cheering them on and playing stupid. Mika Brzezinski. Oh, have we forgotten about Mika Brzezinski? Now, all of a sudden, they want to squeal and moan and wear the hair shirt and sit up here and howl and scream about the fact that, by the way, you about to get the work. That they were just warming up by attacking us. Oh, they were just warming up with us. Baby, when they get warmed up, they coming straight at you. Fists swinging and fur flying. They coming at you now. And what they're realizing is what Trump is saying is that, yeah, DEI is a euphemism for Negroes first, white women last. First, we're going to get them Negroes, then we're going to put you back in your place too. The only group that DEI does not refer to is white males. You notice how nobody ever says DEI favors white males. Okay, well, so in other words, if a white man is here, by definition, he earned it. It's only the rest of you who couldn't earn it. And now the white women are like, I'll be damned, because what they realize is that once Fox News got made a thing on cable, they hired a whole bunch of females because y'all look cute on camera. And the females told themselves, well, we'll never see a day where they don't want cute women on camera. And it's like, yeah, actually, we don't need all y'all here. Yeah, we can get rid of the eye candy now. We don't have to have a bunch of females here anymore. We can dump the eye candy. We don't actually need that. We're perfectly fine if it's 90% white males on the TV screen. We're cool with that. We're cool with that. Yeah. Now the white women are just now waking up and realizing, I'll be damned. I'll be damned. Well. And they voted for it. Again, because they figured they would get a stay of execution. Yeah, I just wanted y'all to understand that just in case you thought Jason was making this up over a decade ago as he went along, just in case you thought the chickens were never going to come home to roost, just in case you thought Jason that wasn't really connected and related, now you see it is. Oh yeah, and who's the only politician in America who mirrors Donald Trump step for step? Ron DeSantis. And one more thing. Do you think he's done? What? You think Trump and friends are done? Man, please. They just cranking up the Chevy. They just cranking up them pipes. They've been waiting years to throw the work. Their plan is to disadvantage everybody with the sole exception of white men, and you see they squadding up. So with this airplane crash, the white women are just now realizing, by the way, did y'all notice the white women are kind of quiet online right now too? There's a bunch of white dudes out there trolling. There's some white women, but they're not as prolific as the males are now, are they? They're just now figuring out, I'll be damned, he's talking about us. It doesn't even have all the facts. Doesn't even have all the facts. Doesn't even have all the information. He's talking about us. Now, they're not brave enough yet to come out and talk against him. They coming real slow with it. It's like, oh, wait a minute now. Let me go ahead and go back over here on Zoom. I got Kenneth over here on Zoom. All right, Kenneth, what's on your mind?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, long time. I was one of the callers for a couple years ago when you were asking about IT professionals that was over 100K. So I've done that. I'm one of those people. I'm Ken, by the way. So I've done that in both IT in terms of software engineering and in real estate. But anyway, the point of what you called about, what your topic and what you're talking about. I've worked at Northrop Grumman. I've also worked at Norfolk Southern on the railroad. So I have a lot of experience as a software engineer. But just talking in on what you're talking about the DEI, most of the DEIs, honestly, are the white people that I've worked with. Most of the time it's been Indians and Asian American or Asians or even Russians that I work with at the railroad that I work with. And most of the time we've all been cool and stuff. You know, I've been the only black person, of course, even in Atlanta. I'm in Tuskegee, by the way, but I live in Atlanta, but I'm in Tuskegee right now because I'm about to turn 40. But anyway, but the point is that we've all been, you know, in terms of like the skill level, in terms of people that's in IT, in terms of this DEI thing, everybody that's been a minority has been on it. Like if you're working there, you had to go through the grind of the interview. You know, they're all looking to poke and prod in anything that you might know, you know, like, or don't know. And they grill you in that interview in that way. Well, kind of more nervous now talking to you than in the interview.
I mean, no, your point is you can't be this, you know, brain damaged ignoramus and operate at IT. You can't be this brainless clod and operate a helicopter. You literally can't start the engine if you're mentally deficient, much less get that damn thing in the air and make it move. That's not going to happen. So we don't have to worry about you being qualified to crash into an airliner. You're never going to make it that far if you have the levels of mental deficiency these other folks will sit up here and try to make you think. You're not even going to get off the ground. You literally will not get that helicopter off the ground.
Right. And then like most of the time, because, you know, most of the grinders, all of the main developers are minorities. And then as you go up the ladder, most of the managers were kind of like middle-aged white ladies. And then the directors were middle-aged white men. And then, of course, you from that point, you go to the C-suite. So I'll go into like the railroad for a second because Norfolk Southern, because Northrop Grumman and Norfolk Southern. But for Norfolk Southern, when I was on their team, like before all these train derailments, they had us do one of these like real unethical issues with their train management system. So it was like we had to create an external page for their customers. So if anybody works with anybody that worked with Norfolk Southern, you can verify this. But when we did the external screen for their train car orders, let's say you wanted to order 10 car orders for like coal mining. So you wanted to order 10 train cars for the trains. So if they only had 5, let's say, they would have an internal screen for their members, for internal for Norfolk Southern. They would show that they only had 5, but they would externally want us to show 10. So they would order 10, but then if they only had 5, they would send them 5. And so they would bombard, the call center, because most of the time, all the black women, was call center folks on that floor. And there was only, a couple of black people on the IT floor. But anyway, so they would bombard all them with the call center, like saying, hey, y'all got my order wrong. But then they strategically did it. And so when I was on the team, I was the only black person to notice it. And then all the other folks that was getting underpaid, like the Indian folks, they were like, they couldn't say anything about it. But I was the one to speak up. And I was like, hey, this is messed up. They're under ordering on purpose. And so then they were like, well, they had a meeting about it, quote unquote. And then they came back and said, we're just going to keep it that way. So that's just like one instance in terms of, like being a black dude in these IT environments. And then they go and push all these initiatives and stuff. And it's crazy to me, being a black dude, then, down here, of course, raised into.
I had that conversation with Jared Taylor. So for those of you who saw my documentary film Race War, I had that conversation with Jared Taylor where he tried to push the same line. And by the way, it's like, yeah, if you ever get somebody like me to talk to him, this ends very quickly. I said, by the way, okay, if the white guys are the only ones who are qualified and what he tried to bring up the Asians doing better than black folk, I said, I'm so glad you said that, because in your Silicon Valley companies, 50 to 60% of the workforce is Asian. So why is it that 50% of these companies are not, the Asians are not the CEOs or running it? Since you clearly have already initiated, well, they're smarter than white people. I'm glad you said that. Then why is it that they're the majority of the workforce, but they're not running the companies? Well, maybe they don't have the management skills. Maybe they don't have the people skills. No, sir. You tried to use that line for black folk. You already said the Asians are smarter than the white guys. So no, brother, it's a power thing. This Richard Spencer was the one who said it. I don't give a damn about competition. I don't give a damn if the Asians are smarter than us. This belongs to us, and we gonna run it.
Yep, and then because they hold that director or C-suite position over the managers, then they are able to kind of impose their will and kind of push and prod, and then because you have initiatives like, let's say, a pension with the railroad, even though they keep trying to vote. Well, at the time when I was working there, they kept trying to vote to see if people wanted to kind of banish themselves from getting pensions, to say, well, 401ks are a better idea than a pension, and so it kept getting voted down, but they kept pushing it. So I'm sure by this time they probably take it.
Yeah, for those of y'all who don't know, the railroads operate on a different retirement system than everybody else does. So yeah, they would certainly love to get that off of them. The railroad guys ain't never gonna do that, because they have their own separate thing, and it's a sweetheart deal, especially if you've been working for the railroad for decades. So for those of you who don't understand, railroad folk have a whole different thing than the rest of us. But yeah, they're gonna try this. That's never gonna work. Never.
Yep, and then to go back to Northrop Grumman, so when I was there, just to explain to everybody else too, I'm sure you probably explained it too, but everything works on contracts, so if you're ever on the sideline, let's say, you think about like starters in football, they're the starters playing, and you're on the bench waiting for it to get subbed in. So if you're not on contract, if you're not actively billing hours to one of their contracts, and they have plenty. And so I was up there in Fairfax working right there by the FBI building, right there by Tyson's, but everybody knows that where it is. But anyway, if you're working up there and you're working on the contract, you're good. But as soon as the contract ends, and then they have different people, like all the Asian folks and different groups, they'll go and create their own companies to try to bid for the contracts that they worked on while they were working at Northrop, because that happened with us. We had to kind of fight to keep our contract with this sub company that they created that was actually our team members that formed a couple of LLCs to try to buy the contract. And so, of course, they would try to initially, to incentivize them to get those contracts because of their minority status and their DEI status. Well, thinking about it now, yeah, it was DEI, but I didn't think about it that way. But I just thought that they were just trying to get their bag up in terms of just getting this contract, since it's all you already.
No, look, nobody wants transparency, at least not in the dominant society. They don't want transparency. They don't want to actually open the books. Okay, if there's some big issue with DEI or something, why don't you just go ahead and show us the numbers? Let's just go ahead and show everybody's numbers, and we can go ahead and get this solved in an afternoon. If that really is an issue, there's no reason you can't just go ahead and show it to us. There is no issue except one. Too many of you are getting too free, too powerful, too resourced. You're not struggling enough. For example, if the reason why I directed so many of you towards IT and whatnot is because, yeah, you're going to have upward mobility that you can control. And you can take it from one place to another. IT is something that works around the world and just work in one place. But there's a problem. And I understood this then, but I wanted you all to be prepared for it. And I figure you should be by the time you get there. When you start having a certain level of skill set, they know how much you're making. The white dude next to you knows how much you getting. It's like, you got your Amazon with it. You got, how much? Sync server, Cisco. You got that too? Oh, really? He knows how much you're making. Once he realizes you were sitting next to him, he knows. And that's the problem. You ain't struggling enough. He's like, oh, hell, you're doing too good. I'll let you have the last word.
Oh yeah, and not just the end, like when you're talking with, in terms of like, it's been a couple of people, like I had, I went to Tennessee State. So a couple of us, are working still in corporate jobs. And then I'm sure the other HBCUs are the black representatives in the U.S. for the U.S. citizen black people that's working at these companies. And so when we come in, we have our swagger to, we get able to talk right. And so they recognize how strong we are, because we have the tech skills and then we also have the social skills to be able to actually be able to talk. And so I kind of seen it as like I wouldn't call it a threat, but they do kind of side eye and kind of smooth with it. But I'll land my plane there. But I'll just say that, we are here, there are black U.S. citizens that are getting it and are smart, and we are technical. Like I have a CS degree and a minor in mathematics. So
I mean, they know it. The whole thing is just the idea that you are going to be in charge of them. Is what the hell was the point of chattel slavery if this was going to be the result? Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Folks, I've always told you it's a spiritual thing. It is a spiritual thing. They seriously mean that. What the hell, as far as they're concerned, remember Paula Deen, why they feel like they lost something with slavery, why they had to give up something what was the point of going through all that if you were just going to end up with black folks sitting in positions of authority over you? What the hell was it? As far as they're concerned, there was no point to Western civilization if you're going to allow that to happen. Enslaving us was a hallmark and a milestone. It's something that they still puff their chest out about and they're still proud of to this day. And if they woke up and you're over them, they're like, what the hell do we do all that for? It was all worthless. If that's what's going to happen, it was worthless. We might as well have just stayed over there in the caves. Let me go ahead and get Ellen S. here up on Zoom. Let me go ahead and get Ellen S. up here on Zoom. We'll give you a few moments to go ahead and get that taken care of. They must have walked away from their cell phone or something. Ellen S., we're going to give you another minute here, and then we're going to have to move on. We can't wait around all night. So, Ellen S., we'll give you another minute here. We don't see you. Okay, Ellen S. has been abducted, I guess. So go ahead and take the evening off. Yeah, folks, like I say here, there's a reason why they're bringing it up. There is a reason why they're bringing it up. There's a reason why they're saying that. They overstretched themselves this time. They overextended themselves this time. It turned out bad. They overextended themselves and it turned out bad. And our job is to make sure that it continues to do that. We will not let that go. We will not let them forget. We will not let them slide. Not at all. This is just the first of many. This will be the first of many because they don't have anything to go at us with. So what they've already showed you is they're sloppy and they're just going to seize on anything. Now you just wait for the next one, which they will have to do because they don't have anything legitimate. Going to have to grab the next thing smoking, and we'll be ready for that one too. We'll be ready for that one too. Very briefly here, by the way, while I was taking a look at everything else here. Where else was I here? Yeah, while I was taking a look at everything else, there was also one other thing here also. One other thing also. Your man rolling the bowling ball is upset. He is very, very unhappy. He's unhappy in life in general, really. But boy, one thing in particular was really bothering Roland.
Trump and his minions, this is all tied together, a couple days ago, in their attack on migrants, they've been touting the 14th Amendment. And Trump goes out and he says that, that 14th Amendment, that was meant, that was meant only for formerly enslaved people of African descent.
Damn right.
And that was music to the ears.
Better believe it.
The foundational Black Americans, the FBA, the freedmen, ADOS. Oh, they all on social media. See? It was only for us.
See? It was only for us.
That law was only for us.
That law was only for us. Damn right.
No law is only for one group of people.
Excuse me. A law for women? Thank you. Second Amendment, you have to have a gun. All the laws are for citizens. Though those of you who do not qualify are like, wait a minute, why I gotta be for just one group of people? So here, let me get 3 chairs for Roland to sit down on. 1 chair cannot hold him.
So he's using, see, some of y'all need to understand. Y'all gotta recognize what Bill Duke said in that movie, High Flying Bird. They invented a game on top of the game. Trump is deliberately trying to play the wedge game because he knows there's a group of black people who are so anti-immigrant and who think that they are so conscious that they are driving this messaging on social that's only for us. We only want to see laws for us. We only want to see bills for us. And that is at the roots of what's going on with this discussion about the 14th Amendment. Joining us right now.
So Roland is upset. Roland is unhappy. Roland's trying to convince all of us that we need to have solidarity with illegals. So Roland is very unhappy about all of this. It's not a very good year. Roland's going to start losing weight. What? Roland's going to start losing weight. He's already lost his hair, so it's just, it's all downhill from here, folks. It's all downhill. It really, really is. So, yeah. What we going to do with him? It's rough on him, y'all. It is rough on him. He was just so looking forward. He was like, things just happen so damn quick. It happened so fast. See, Roland is waiting for the crops to start rotting. He's just like Trump. Roland Martin is just like Trump. He's waiting for some disaster to happen so he can seize on it and say, see, you should have did what I told you to. That's how pathetic things have gotten. He's waiting on that to occur. And in the absence of that, he's kind of just falling apart, man. It's rough on him. It's rough on him, man. He don't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do. So, yes, he found out, the 14th Amendment is just for us. It's just for us. That's what it's always been. But you see, Roland is not one of us. So for that reason, he needs it to apply to something else. And what has Roland consistently done? He's tried to undermine us. Roland Martin has had the opportunity to talk to Kamala Harris and the rest of them, and that was the time to take her ass to task. Roland did no such thing. So in that instance, sir, you've proven that you are delegitimized. You cannot legitimately speak for us because when you had the opportunity to do so, you refused, just like you did in front of Richard Spencer. You refused to even be black that day, but we do find it to be rather delicious. We do find it to be rather delicious that you're unhappy about it. We do find that to be succulent. Roland is having fits. He's having fits. He's like they're hitting it from all sides. Here's the thing that he's unhappy about. The thing that he's unhappy about is that we said that ourselves. Trump, that's not something that came from the top down. That's something that came from the bottom up. We're the ones who said, yes, that's our agenda. That's the thing he has a problem with. He has a problem with that. Now, folks, let me be very, very clear to you. If there were a convenient and sensible argument to make to us about why we should support illegal aliens, Roland would just make it. Him and Butch Ware and the rest of them, if there were actually a reasonable, sensible, advantageous argument to make, Why the hell don't they just go ahead and make it? Why don't they just go ahead and tell us what was in it for us? Why don't they just do that? Why is it they can't just do that part? Just go ahead and tell us what's the benefit to us, because we see nothing but disadvantages. Explain to us why those disadvantages don't exist, why those are just figments of our imagination, and then just explain to us what's the benefit we're going to get, what's the advantage. We tell you the disadvantage, and then you never tell us what the advantage is. It's only an advantage for them, not one for us. Well, what about the crops? I don't believe you. I don't believe you. So, yeah, if it's going to happen, go ahead and leave them out there. I don't believe you. You're lying. I don't believe you. So, folks, if he could talk about the crops, we're in the middle of winter right now. If he could talk about crops drying up and, oh, nobody's going to get them, well, Roland should be happy right now. Just go ahead and show that. He wouldn't have to sit up here and try to say anything about this. All he had to do is just wait until the crops die and prices at the grocery store skyrocket. Isn't that what he would just do? Instead, we keep asking him, Roland, if you want to shut this down quick, just go ahead and tell us where's the advantage and benefit to us. And this argument can be over right now. The problem is he can't tell you what it is.
My guest is Carla McAnders, Director of the Legal Defense Fund's Thurgood Marshall Institute. Carla, I'm adding you to this because all of this ties together, Carla. It is meant to drive wedges between Black, Latino, Asian, Native American. The rights lawsuits, Harvard and affirmative action programs, meant to drive the wedge. And there are Black people who are falling for the okie doke, who are playing right into it, who think that, oh no, these are things that are just for us, when it's been established by the Supreme Court that the 14th Amendment does not only apply to the descendants of formerly enslaved people of African descent. Folk need to realize.
Anybody can read the 14th Amendment and see what it clearly says. But by the way, even Roland wants to bring up the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court also did the Dred Scott decision. By the way, didn't the Supreme Court give us the Dred Scott decision also? To which Roland would say that was overturned. Yeah, and so are the ones you just talked about with the 14th Amendment. So now that you have stated that overturning precedent is a legitimate function of the Supreme Court, get ready to rock and roll, flip-flop, and turn.
The game that is being played, this is a master race strategy that is being employed as we speak and is unfolding every single day.
Roland just called us the freedmen, the descendants of the American slaves, the foundation. He just called us master race. He wants to call us Nazis so bad. That's what he wants to say. He wants to say that we're the first Black men are the white people of Black society. Now here he comes with his sassy male feminist hot sauce, talking about we're a bunch of master racists. Simply because we're saying, hey, this law was made just for us. Just like the rest of the Constitution before then was made just for white men. This law was made, this amendment was just for us. Yeah, y'all is excluding peoples there. Roland's people exclude folk all the damn time. They exclude people every damn day. The fact that I can tell you about Haitian neighborhoods, Jamaican neighborhoods, they exclude people every damn day. It's like, okay, we're like, okay, fine, let's exclude 14th Amendment. That was made for us, by the way. That was, when did they make the 14th Amendment? It speaks for itself. He's like, wait a minute, don't we get to ride? No, back off it. We're not starting the bandwagon. And the fear is already setting in.
Definitely. Thank you for having me today. I think you're hitting on the core issue here, is that citizenship has always been narrowly construed to only include a certain group, and it's been very exclusionary. So if you go back to 17.
Okay, then what the hell are you talking about? Citizenship has always been narrowly defined. Okay, she just refuted what Roland Martin said, by the way. It can't be both narrow and broad simultaneously, but here we go.
1990 with the Naturalization Act, it was limited to free white males. Then you had, Dred Scott arguing that, a formerly enslaved person who's in the North, that he should be given citizenship rights. You had the Supreme Court responding in Dred Scott saying that, just as Taney said, that the black man has no rights to which the white man is bound to respect. And so the 14th Amendment came along and it provided citizenship, membership, and belonging to all persons born or naturalized.
Oh boy, they are upset over there. They are upset. They are mad. That was the perfect sassy pose right there for Roland Motherwins. They're upset. They're angry. They're mad. We chilling. We just like, you know what? Hey, why don't we just keep it like it is right now? And now Roland's like, wait a minute. We all got to work together. If we wouldn't have to have this discussion if they were already working with us. We laid out the program. We laid out the game plan. Too many folks don't want to sit up here and talk about that. Not good. Not good. They worried, y'all. They're worried, and they should be worried. They're worried, and they should be worried. It's not our fault. It ain't our fault. Now, folks, by the way, just to remind Roland the Bowling Ball of what the 14th Amendment says. She was talking about Chief Justice Roger B. Taney. We talked about that in my first documentary, 7 a.m. 14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States. An illegal alien, by definition, was neither born here nor were they naturalized. Thus, their illegal status. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens, not residents of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. So that was supposed to outlaw the I'm white and I say so rule. But when you take a look at cases like Ahmaud Arbery and Trayvon Martin, they exercise the I'm white and I say so rule all the time. But by the way, if you all know what was supposed to outlaw I'm white and I say so, I'm white and I say so is supposed to be in the 14th Amendment, supposed to be outlawed. Nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. This thing was made for us, and when you go and take a look at the congressional minutes and the folks who talked about why they suggested it and why they were presenting it, very clearly stated there. You can't grab this and just say, oh, this is for anybody standing on American soil. That is not what the 14th Amendment says. If they wanted to craft it so that it applied to any person residing in America, any person present in America, it wouldn't have started by saying all persons born or naturalized in the United States, and then it has a comma. And subject to the jurisdiction thereof. You were born here, naturalized here, and subject to the jurisdiction of it. Roland wants to make sure, wait a minute. And here's my point. Roland is used to coming from a place where you don't have to do that. You make up the rules as you go along. Y'all freestyle as you go along. That's the issue. And we're like, no. You're not going to sit up here and do that, because not having a code is how y'all got in trouble. We stayed here and fought these folk to a standstill until we developed a code up in there. And these other folks who never worked and collaborated with us, all of a sudden, wait a minute now, we ain't something on here, bud. We're like, no. It says that. And yes, we co-sign. Yes, we do. Roland's like, I'll be damned, things is getting real. Yes, it sure is. Take it up to the Supreme Court and get them to lay that out, because after you confirm that the 14th Amendment applies to us, I will then come up behind you and remind you that, by the way, we have been deprived of our life, liberty, and pursuit of property all the whole damn time. So we'll be right behind them. We'll be right behind them. Let me go ahead and get back over here on Zoom. We got a late entrant here. I'll give him 5 seconds to get here on Zoom, and then we're going to go ahead and do something a little bit different. All right, we got Jonathan on Zoom. You need to unmute yourself, sir. We'll give you a few moments here to do that. Need to unmute yourself, please. Okay, this newfangled technology got him confounded.
A little bit.
All right, what's on your mind, sir?
Well, Roland Martin, the super tether that he is, he's shaking in his boots because the delineation movement is in full swing right now. And it's unfortunate that even the white supremacists are identifying the fact that our argument that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were what they called the Reconstruction Amendments. And they only specifically were for the people who were here at the time. See, we get confused with all this, all this immigration and all these people being in the country as if they were always here. No, at one point in time, there was no one else here. There was us, there was white folks, and there was the natives. And that was it. Transitionally, there started being different people coming in and out from Europe, and then they threw the gates open during Ellis Island for all of the, so-called white folks to join. And they weren't even considered white. The Irish and all of them, they weren't even considered white. There used to be, the signs of, no Irish, no dogs, and so forth and so on. But all of these tethers that came in, post 1975 or so, that clawed in here, and they started talking and using our talking points and started claiming blackness. They're black now. They weren't black until they got here, because black was a term that was used specifically for us, because they had ran out of terms. We were niggers and Negroes and colored and African American.
Well, here's the difference. Like, no. The difference is when Dred Scott and all that happened, we know who the two sides were. When folks started trying to expand that, we were quiet. We didn't say anything. Because of our position, we were not going to the Supreme Court and saying, hey, no, this is for us. No, not this Indian dude from India. Not him. No, not him. Folks want to sit here and talk about that case. No, not him. No, just us. That's who this is for. We didn't say anything. And because we didn't say anything and we didn't make a big issue of it, we kind of just got left out of the discussion. We were under the idea that as long as they were not white, that would help us, because everybody else is going to realize we all in this together, and we played that little stupid game for the better part of half a century until we figured out, this ain't working, because the folk we helping don't see themselves as one of us. So all we're doing is helping them, but nothing is reciprocating. So we sat quiet as they gradually encroached on our territory and expanded this thing and mutated it and expanded it until eventually it becomes, they start utilizing it like it applies to everyone when it clearly does not. It does not say that. That was a result of us being quiet. The frightening thing for Roland Martin is that he understands, yeah, this time we won't be quiet. If they push this thing, we're going to be right there saying, yes, it's correct. You will not get a bunch of us talking about, no, they ain't right. That's not correct. Give everybody. You won't get that this time. This time will be different. And that's what he's worried about. I'll let you have the last word.
Well, if you go back to most recently, we just buried Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter threw the freaking gates open for the Cubans during the Mariel boat lift. And we know what that turned into. They dumped all of their freaking prisoners. They dumped all their prisons over here. We ended up with a big ass, cocaine problem in the United States following that, which built most of the lower South, Miami being the biggest thing that it built. And those same Cubans that, it came in and we hugged and we loved and we thought that they were, on board with us. As soon as they got themselves together, they started voting Republican and they started talking and they started, putting on their census forms that they were white and blah, blah, blah. The Puerto Ricans had already did it to us in the 50s and the 60s when they came in and said, oh, we just like you. We just like you. And I was in New Jersey, New York. I grew up in that area and we were gracious, we were ingratiating, we let these people in, we brought them into our communities, and they simultaneously came in and took over the entire community. They bought up all the mom and pop stores, they bought up all of the real estate, and they became the model minority that they thought that they were going to be, put in a space above us, and they ended up right back, like Fat Joe and his family down in the South, over in the Bronx, living amongst us, and using our terminologies. That's what made him so comfortable getting out of pocket, is because we let these people come in.
Exactly. That's what I mean. After decades of us being quiet, we didn't have to do anything. Quiet. All we did was just be quiet while they grabbed the stuff for us and spread it to everyone else. And you look up one day and there's nothing for you. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Yeah, I mean, everything that we fought for and everything, they just started diluting it and spreading it to everybody else. And then we looked up one day and ain't nothing for us. You looked up one day and they're telling you that none of these protect you now. They're only activating it for everybody except you. That's the issue. You damn right. We're not spreading this around anymore. We're not doing that. Because here's the thing. Tell me the benefits that Roland Martin and the immigrants get that we get to share. What? Roland is not talking about a single damn thing that they get that we get to share. We don't get to access none of their benefits, and nor have they ever argued that we should. They've never said, by the way, you need to be giving the foundational folk this here. Roland Martin's never argued for that, and he never will. These folk, when they get the illegal aliens, whatever they get, that's just for them. You didn't see any of the illegals in New York, Chicago, or nowhere else talking about, by the way, the black folk who made it possible for us to even be here without being shot. You need to be, if you came up with $50 million for us, Brandon Johnson, you should have $50 billion for them. They didn't lift a finger. They didn't say a word. They didn't say a single word for us, and they're not saying one today. They're just saying, we glad we good. We need to be better. But they never argue that the benefits they get and any rewards they get, they never argue that we should get to share that. It's always whatever we got, niggas is picking off our plate. Let me get some of that. Ooh, you got a big steak. Let me get some of that. Ooh, look at this cake you got over here. Let me get a big slice of that. It's never reciprocal. It's always about leeching off of somebody else. We're like, okay, enough leeching. And by the way, it would be different if they were respectful. Now, there's the other killing part about it. By the way, it'd be different if you were a polite leech, if you were a respectful leech, if you were a reverent leech, if you were showing just and doing respect to us while you leeching. They leeching and disrespectful. I mean, they leeching and talking trash. They leeching and disrespectful. That's the killing part about it. You ain't just a leech. You a smart ass, disrespectful leech too. Why the hell we let you stay here this damn long? It's like, enough of that. Let me roll up this damn welcome mat. Let me roll up this welcome mat. We done left it down here too long. Let me roll this bastard back up. Take this on inside. Enough of that. The welcome mat has been rolled up and removed until further notice. Oh, well, Jason, what kind of mat we got? The mat now says get the hell on. Damn. That's the mat now. The welcome mat has been replaced with the get the hell on mat. Not even, I ain't even asking what you want. It's just the mat now just says get the hell on. That's it. The shop is closed. Stop asking, stop begging. The shop is closed. We're done. That's it. You're not going to threaten us. You're not going to scare us. You're not going to shame us. We ain't having it. We're not having it. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. Whole lot going on here. Let me go ahead and post in the Zoom one more time here. Oh, let me not post the wrong thing up there in Zoom. I mean, the wrong thing there in the chat room. Let me not post the wrong thing. I'll go ahead and post that link up here one more time. Hurry, hurry, step right up. Be there, be square. If you're in the New York area and you need some help attending this, they're going to have some assembly folk getting together for their little conference here on the 14th. I intend to be there. If you are in the New York area, I know you and you need, you want to be there as well. They thrown up some obstacles, but if you need something with that, we can take a look at it for you. We can take a look at that for you here. So I expect us to be in the place. So glad they're going to have a big event like this because I intend for it to be one for us to talk about. Might have a little bit of a get together before then, so keep your eyes and your ears open. I want to know everybody who's going to be involved with that. I want to know everyone who's going to be involved with that. Okay, folks are asking which one to get. There's one that includes for the Assemblywoman's reception. So right now, I think that's the silver package. There's the one for the silver, the one for the women's Assemblywoman's reception. That's the one that will include, that's the one we're looking at. The other stuff that's got with it, because it's like a 2-day event that they have, so they got a whole lot going on. It's going to be a 2-day event. We're only interested in one part of it where the politician's going to be there. We're just interested in that one. Who knows? There might be some stragglers just floating around, throughout that time, but I'm only interested in that one part where you get to meet the politicians and stuff. And I'm so glad you said that. So glad you said that. So glad you offered that. We are very, very glad to hear that. Very glad to hear that. Well, that's the one we gonna be there for. That's the one I want to look out for. Want to look out for that one. So I got a feeling there was some chicanery involved. I get it. But you probably want to look for the silver package for that one. For my folks in New York there, I want to bring as many as I can. So if your money's low because you went and tricked it off at the club, if your money is low because the chick with the backdoor BBLs, for anybody, for the women or the men, pause. If I ain't judging, if you went for the ladies or the gentlemen who went and got their BBLs at New Year's, you already done tricked off your income tax return. You already done did that. You already went to Abdul's car lot and grabbed that last Buick LeSabre that he had on sale. I understand your money might be a little bit funny right now. It's like, damn, Jason, why didn't you say something last week? I was all right before then, but I don't know what I can do now. If I caught you right after you just pushed send on eBay for that tacky yacky, if I caught you right at, you're like, damn, Jason. And if you had said something an hour earlier, I just hit send. I just hit send for the order for my fake weave on eBay, Jason. Why didn't you say something earlier? So If that's the situation, hit me up. I want as many people from New York there to be there as possible, so there won't be an excuse if you're in New York and I know you and you want to be in the place, holla at me. I want us to move on this quickly because, like I say, you never know. Some folks might sit up here and next thing you know, all the tickets are gone. So we don't want that to occur. So I want as many of you as available as possible for that. I definitely want that. So if you're there, all my folks in New York, I want as many of my people in New York to be there as we can. I want as many of us to be on site as we can. Very, very important to me. Very, very important. So keep an eye and an ear out for that. Okay, Kim in the chat room talking about she needs to pitch in for gas. All right, Kim, it's already starting. It's already beginning. I'm like, okay. Hit me up, Kim. We'll see if we can help you out with that. At least you're being honest. I ain't hating on it. At least you're being honest. It's cool. It's cool. Look, I understand how it is. The new year comes in. Folks think they're going to have some discipline. You see that little old check for $1,300. Damn. You see that little old check, or those of you got kids, it might be $5,000 or $6,000. You've been waiting all year to trick this off. You standing in line at the Gucci store so you can go buy a little old the grocery bag at the Gucci store. They ain't in a handbag. Jason, I'm paying $400 for a grocery bag. Okay. I have a designer grocery bag. Got it. I understand. I ain't judging you. I'm not. So you can email me at theblackauthority@yahoo.com. Email me at theblackauthority@yahoo.com. So if you untricked off everything you got and you really want to show up for this, but you're like, damn, Jason, you caught me fresh back from the strip club. That's for the women or the men. Some of the ladies might be back from the strip club. She spent all that little money them fellas was stuffing in her underwear. She spent all the little change they gave. So now she coming to me pleading poverty. Go ahead and hit me up, theblackauthority@yahoo.com. That's theblackauthority@yahoo.com. So if you're somebody in New York and I know who you are, we're going to see about getting that together for you. I want to thank, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. Let me go ahead and thank everyone, and I do mean everybody who's contributed to tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Miss Nancy, thank you very much for your support. We appreciate that. My man Black Voltron Reloaded, we appreciate that there as well. Morning Mess Edition. All right, she is named for that right there. Thank you very much for your support there as well. Appreciate seeing all of y'all here. If you are new, everybody in the Super Chat, thank you very much for your support. Venmo, PayPal, thank you very much as well. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button. Click that notification bell. Join us each and every time that we're here. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, go check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., soon to be 8 a.m., Gentrified, Race War. Blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank all of you for tuning in tonight, live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.